Hello guys, welcome to Proxima What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if betrayed Izuku awakened solo leveling plus Mushoku Tensei systems. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The gate that shouldn't have opened. The numbers lie. I'm staring at the gate telemetry on the van's portable console and the spikes aren't matching the low threat label stamped on the mission sheet. The waveform jumps like a heartbeat in a sprint. The commission proctor leans in, taps the corner as if the graph will behave out of politeness. Training support only, he says. Hero course students secure the perimeter. Pro heroes handle the breach. Then why is it pulling mana from the sewer lines? I ask. He smiles the way administrators do right before they write your name under, non-compliant. Midoriya, we appreciate your enthusiasm. Momo nudges my shoulder with the end of a folded staff. He's right. There's backflow on District 3. That's not training anything. Bakugo kicks the van door open. If this turns out to be a waste of time, I'm detonating the invoice. Move. Ochako tightens her gloves, cheeks puffed with the kind of breath people take before jumping into cold water. Perimeter first. We do what we can. We spill into a narrow street that funnels into the warehouse hosting the gate. Cold air rolls down the alley like an open freezer. No, not cold. Dry. Ike the moisture got scared and moved out. Pro heroes stack at the entry, HUDs linked, voices clipped and calm. The gate shivers in the center of the warehouse. Blue-black, the kind of color that swallows light and returns it with interest. My skin prickles. A voice snaps over the comms. Students. Perimeter, crowd control, med relay. Do not enter. That's an order. We spread. Momo and me wall side near the loading dock. Ochako above on the mezzanine to watch the crowd. Bakugo exactly where he shouldn't be, 10 steps closer to the action. The gate bulges. Some people say gates open like doors. This one tears like paper soaked in oil. Ragged, uneven, with a whisper that sounds like 1,000 tongues trying to taste the same fear. 3 pro heroes enter in formation. The proctor checks a tablet and tells a nearby officer. Too loud, contained, all according to spec. He's trying to convince himself. I'm already moving. Don't, Momo whispers, catching my sleeve. You're not wrong, but if you break formation, then we improvise inside, I say. If those readings are right, we're going to have to anyway. A floor panel on the far side of the warehouse buckles. The concrete sinks, not from weight, like it's being chewed. The pro heroes don't notice. The proctor won't look. Crowd control, I tell Ochako. Start pushing everyone back past the trucks. Don't make it a stampede. I'm on it, she says. Already scaling the rail. Hey, everyone, we're stepping back to the street. Yes, you. No, not to film. Please. Thank you. Bakugo glances over his shoulder at me. I swear if you. The gate spits out a scout. 2 long arms, too many knees, a face like a smooth oval with a seam. Low threat scouts don't move like that. It scuttles up the wall and opens along the seam like a grin. I step forward. It drops. No dramatic call out. No. Quirk name. Go. I lift my hand and shape the air with intent the way I taught myself after too many late nights with too little luck. Wind. Silent. It catches the thing mid-fall and pushes it past me into the alley where no one is standing. It hisses. Momo flicks her staff open and smashes it at the joints. Clean. Efficient. That should be it. The warehouse buckles again. A shadow on the gate's inner lip moves like it has a spine made of glass. The comms crackle. Students. Retreat to exterior. Repeat. Retreat. We're already exterior. I say, eyes on the shadow. That's the problem. The gate does a thing I've never seen. It inverts. The surface peels back and turns itself like a sock. The 3 pros shout at the same time. A hand I don't have a name for grabs one of them by the waist and pulls him into a different geometry. Blood hits the concrete with a sound that makes my teeth ache. Everyone out. The lead pro yells. Back. Back. The ceiling vents start to rattle. Gonsfeld effect. Tunneling. The world narrowing into a bright, loud tube. I hear my own breath on the inside of my helmet and it's too fast. I don't run. Momo. Seal the loading dock. I say, drawing a quick arc in the air with 2 fingers. Ochako, clear civilians, then come back for high-angle evac. Bakugo's already half airborne on blasts. If something big comes out of there, I'm punching it in the mouth. Use your eyes, I say. He clicks his tongue. I am. The proctor's voice breaks on the comms. Hold positions. The commission is dispatching. A second scout half the size of a car peels through, hits the ground on a dozen blade tips, and skitters for the nearest moving thing, a stuck forklift. The driver is still fight frozen, knuckles white on the wheel. I don't ask for permission. Stone. Silent. I grind a low wall up out of the cracked concrete, just enough to trip, not enough to trap. The scout hits it, flips, flails. Bakugo hammers it from above. A controlled burst that turns joints into slag. It's dead before it understands gravity. The gate's hum hits a pitch I feel in my molars. The pocket around it smells like burnt cinnamon and rust. The pro heroes back through, one dragging the other 2. One is bleeding badly. The gate doesn't care. It learned us in 5 minutes and now it's reaching. My tablet blinks, not with comms ECG or commission warnings. A new window pops where nothing else on this earth has ever popped. Neat, clean text floating with weightless certainty. Quest. Survive the gate that shouldn't have opened. Reward. A chance. Penalty. Null. I do not have time for a nervous breakdown. The gate surges again, and something pulls itself out wearing bones like ornaments. Its head is a cone of ribs around a flickering core. It breathes the air and the air screams. Bakugo drops at its flank and explodes into the inhale instead of waiting for the exhale. The force vector is Ron. G for a hero course kid who learned explosions is a hammer. He's not hammering, he's prying. The thing stutters. I sprint. Don't get swallowed. He yells. Helpful note this. The thing turns. Momo's voice snaps on comms. Izuku. Brace. She slides a suitcase open and slams a palm to the interior. A spool of wire, a glass cylinder, chalk. She yanks the line, loops it around 2 support columns, and clicks a clasp. Her creation blooms. Quick set anchor gel inside the glass, a microcharge sealed to the base, handwritten sigils crawling around the rim that look like she didn't have time to make them look pretty. 2 seconds, she says. On my mark, push left. Ochako's voice cuts through, raised but steady. Civilians out, coming back in 15 seconds. No, 10, no, I'm almost there. The rib thing lunges. I pull wind again, not as a wall this time but as a hand, not pushing the monster, pushing me, a slide in that half click of time when your shoe leaves the floor and hasn't found the next. My shoulder misses a bone hook by a palm width. Momo yanks the line. The columns groan. Her glass cylinder flashes like a falling star. She triggers the charge. The G.L inside the glass roars into expansion and hardens in a blink, grabbing the columns and the ceiling in a nasty, temporary marriage. The gate tugs the roof and the roof tugs back. The ripple buys us 3, 4, 5 beats of stability. She doesn't smile. There's no victory face, just breath and focus as she reaches for another case. Bakugo takes the rib head's attention with a scatter of small pops that draw it away from civilians. He knows where the camera is, but he isn't playing to it, he's playing to blind spots and bad balance. He's learning on the go. The proctor barks into the comms again. Do not engage. This is beyond your authorization. Then authorize us, I say. Silence. The rib thing pivots, looks at me with the kind of attention that feels like heat. I can't keep it from seeing me. But I can make sure it sees the wrong me. I move my left foot half an inch and open my fingers just so and think shadow without knowing why. Everything slows as if the room forgot about time. Another window unfurls. Small as a breath. Job change available. Apprentice right pointing arrow spellblade. Requirement met. Intent plus execution under pressure. No lectures. No tutorial. Just a yes waiting F. Or someone to be brave or stupid enough to hit it. Fine. I whisper, tiny because there's no room for noise in my chest. Fine. I choose it. The world clicks like a new gear engaging. There's no surge, just clarity. My body doesn't get stronger, my choices get easier. Wind is an edge, stone is a grip, light is a trick of the eye that you can teach to lie if you want it bad enough. I don't want it, I need it. The rib thing inhales again. I step forward. Midoriya, Momo says quietly. With you. That helps. I cut wind along my forearm and it stays in a tight, invisible sheath because I tell it to. I use stone not to build a wall but to thicken my step where the concrete is slick. When the first hook drops, I don't parry, I let it miss by a thought and I drive my fist into the flicker at the center of that cone. It shrieks in a frequency that tears paper clips off desks. My ears go hot. My stomach turns sulfur sour. I can't see the damage I did. But it recognizes pain. It reels. A different presence rolls across the warehouse like the ocean noticing a toy boat. The hair on my arms stands up. The gate deepens. Color not darker, just more true, like it found an older version of itself and decided to become it. A shape leans through that isn't a shape. The pro heroes, to their credit, drag their injured away without screaming. Urgent update, the proctor says into comms. He's stopped pretending. Unknown classification. Requesting Eden. The rest gets lost in feedback. The thing in the gate doesn't step out. It chooses a new boundary and calls it forward so that we are now, instantly, inside. The geometry folds. The warehouse doesn't leave. It rearranges around a cavern that wasn't there before. Columns snake into stalagmites. The mezzanine yawns into a shelf. Over a drop that laughs at tape measures. Ochako swears once, softly, and that's how I know it's bad. She doesn't swear in front of kids on field trips. A second window appears over my left palm like a moth attracted to a campfire. Hidden dungeon. Unacknowledged audit. Condition. Survive or settle. Special. Extraction permission pending. The rib head comes again. I duck. Regret the duck because the hook tears something along my back. And stand straight into an uppercut that has wind teeth. Bone clacks like someone dropped dishes. I follow through with a silent seal, just intent, no words, patch. Hing the worst of the concrete under Momo's anchor so it doesn't fail. She doesn't thank me, she doesn't have to, we're spending coins from the same pocket. Bakugo lands on a ledge no one asked the to give him and uses it like he planned it. Third joint is brittle, he shouts. Stop playing nice. I'm never nice, I say, lying to both of us. The rib head retreats a step, then all four limbs jam into the ground and it pushes. The floor buckles and a wave of concrete tries to throw us into the throat of the gate. Ochako slaps her hand on the railing and yanks gravity sideways, people tumble into the wall instead of down the gulch the floor wants to be. 10 seconds, she gasps over the mic. I can hold this 10. Make it 11. Bakugo snaps, blowing craters in the wave crest to break it up. Working on 12. Momo mutters, knuckles white around the next cylinder. She drags chalk and wire from her case, tongue caught between her teeth as she sketches a circle whose lines feel like they shouldn't hold but do. The rib head lunges toward a forklift driver who finally, blessedly, is moving. Too slow. I sprint and don't make it. Shadow moves before I do. Something steps out of the angle under the forklift. Tall, with 6 elbows, a face like a vertical slash that drinks the light and glows dim in the middle. It isn't one of the scouts. I saw it when the gate first inverted. Standing with a hand on the geometry like a person leaning on a railing. The lieutenant. The one whose pattern kept showing up on the telemetry when it should have smoothed out. It looks at me. It looks at the rib head. It grabs the rib hook and twists, not hard. The rib head lets go like it metaphysics it doesn't agree with. The forklift driver staggers free. I'm already there, shoving him toward the exit. Eyes on the thing that saved him. My palm hums. The new window doesn't ask twice. Extract. Everything in me says don't take shortcuts you don't understand. Everything else in me says if I don't make a choice here. Someone dies 6 minutes from now who didn't need to. I reach. Not physically. The way you reach for a word that's on the tip of your tongue. I choose. The lieutenant turns its face slit toward me and tilts its head in a way that means either, finally, or, you idiot. Then it burns down to an ember without heat and slides into my shadow like it belongs there. My shadow stands up behind me and kneels without prompting. The room doesn't get colder. It gets brighter, or I do. Breath. Feet. More breath. The rib head is furious in the way structures are and they remember they can break themselves. It unhinges wider. The flicker in its chest fastens on me like a bill collector. Bakugo blasts high and grazes the core, enough to make it flinch. It likes you, he says. Marry it. Hard pass. Then kill it. Working on it. I push both palms forward and think of wind like a blade and stone like a promise. The sheath along my forearm hums and bites. Cut. The ribs turn to chalk in one slice and explode in a ring. The core pops free, blinking like a trapped lantern. It tries to fly back to the gate and I catch it. No physical grip. Mana threading. I've never done it at this scale. I've never done it, period. It fights. I learn on the 5th microsecond that it hates spiral tension but hates cross snap more. I give it the spiral, it thrashes into the snap. It shatters. Blue fire without flame. A dozen tiny lights spin out and streak for the edge of the inverted throat. The gate yawns to drink them. I let 10 go. I keep 1. It's the size of a coin with a heartbeat. It's the kind of blue people call sacred when they want someone to kneel. It knows me with the raw attention that newborns have for whatever their eyes find first. Y Palm offers the new window before I can blink. Shadow Seed. Rinya. Status. Dying. Memory anchor available. Except, I don't have time to mourn a monster that just tried to eat us. But it isn't a monster. It's a someone who lost a fight I picked by standing between it and a city. Ochako grunts into the comms. I can't hold this much longer. Need a swap. Momo slaps a second anchor into place. We won't have a third. The pro heroes herd civilians through the churned geometry, faces set to the same place as mine. Do the right next thing. Except, I say, the seed burns through my hand and settles under my ribs like an idea I'm not ready to say out loud. My shadow, the lieutenant, looks over its shoulder, suddenly not just shape but person. I feel a question like a pressure change. Help them, I tell it. Because, them, is everyone and it nods anyway, and leaps into the churn, pulling 3 bodies out of falling floor like it has been saving lives with me for years. The warehouse doesn't stop buckling. The gate doesn't stop pulling. The other presence, the not proctor, the not pro hero, the not anything that feels like a hall monitor for gods, watches. It hasn't intervened. It has only watched. A final window edges into the corner of my sight. Not like the others. Not with the friendly certainty. This one smells like paperwork in winter. Balance check. Variance detected. Debtor identified. The letters are thin as hair. They cut like it, too. Izuku, Momo says, and I snap back to the part of the world that has people I can actually hold. We have a minute to get everyone out before this anchor fails. Bakugo, I say, you're on smash and guide. Make holes, not walls. I know my job, he growls, saving 3 more people so aggressively they apologize to him for almost dying near him. Ochako, I say, straight corridor, left side of the mez, then down. Reduce pull on the last drop. Got it. Momo, 2 more points of contact. Don't blow the roof, bend it. She doesn't ask how, she does it. We move. Not a cinematic slow-mo wave of heroics. It's sweaty and messy and my back hurts and my shoulder aches where a hook wanted to make me less. The lieutenant, Anant, my shadow, falls into rhythm without being taught. People who should have fallen don't. A kid who should have cried takes my hand and doesn't let go until the air stops trying to drink her. The last group spills into the street. The warehouse exhales like a lung that was holding a secret. The gate collapses on itself, exhausted by its own trick. Silence. Then the kind of noise cities make when they realize they're still whole. Sirens, questions, cameras, the soft hiss of relief. Bakugo drops to a knee like his legs remembered gravity all at once. He stands before anyone can say anything about it. He looks at me, hair spiked to heaven, eyes hot. You called good plays, he says grudgingly. You kept me from doing something dumb, I say, which is the same as a thank you and we both know it. Don't get used to that. Wouldn't dream of it. The pro heroes begin triage. The proctor tries to approach, tablet out like a weapon he forgot how to use. Midoriya, he starts, tasting my name like he's afraid I'll crack a tooth on it. We'll need your statement, and your data, and whatever that unauthorized intervention was. I look at Momo. She steps between me and the words and the camera and the entire policy. Her coat flicks around, neat, practical. She reaches without thinking and tucks the back of my shirt where the hook tore it so I won't look ruined on film. Her hand shakes once, tiny. My hand is steadier than it has any right to be and I cover hers for a beat. Later, I say to the proctor, "We have injuries." He opens his mouth to argue. Then he looks at the street. He swallows the argument and makes it paperwork in his eyes. Fine. Fight me with forms. Later, a smaller thing notices me then. The shadow seat under my ribs with the name the window gave me even though I didn't hear it spoken. Rinya. She burns low, patient like a coal in a snowdrift. There's no hungry command, no needling whisper. Only a presence that feels like waiting for a door to open. In the alley's washed-out light, a shape shifts behind me. The lieutenant kneels. Not theatrical. Not for the cameras that haven't found it yet. For me. For the choice I made to turn a killing into a keeping. I don't raise it with a speech. I nod once. Stay with me, I say. A breeze that isn't wind moves through my bones. Agreement. I turn back to the living. Ochako floats a stretcher over a parked car. Bakugo snarls at a hovering drone until it politely beelines for somewhere else. Momo's mouth pulls tight as she makes a long list of supplies appear with hands that have already done enough. We start moving wounded into ambulances, counting, double counting. No matter what the proctor writes later, that's the only ledger I care about right now. In my peripheral vision, the T.M. letters flicker once more and vanish like frost under a palm. Balance check. Variance detected. Debtor identified. I press 2 fingers to my wrap to cover the mark on my wrist I didn't want anyone to see yet. I'll figure out what the debt is called later. I'll figure out who holds it. For now, I do the work in front of me while the cameras catch angles and the city learns our names in a new order. Momo drapes her coat over my shoulders from behind, casual, as if she's preventing a chill instead of a narrative. No words. Just warm fabric and the quiet permission to keep going. I do. Chapter 1 end. Chapter 2. Paper shields and quiet knives. The commission's lobby pretends to be kind. Soft lights. Quiet carpets. A wall of framed proclamations about service and stability. A. Reese. PTI Honest smiles without moving any other part of her face and hands us visitor badges that register like ankle bracelets in my head. Hayami keeps us waiting just long enough to remind us he can. Then, the door slides open and he glides out with 3 aides moving like punctuation behind him. Midoriya, he says, warmth like a space heater. Technically true, not meant for people. Yaoyorozu. Uraraka, thank you for your courage yesterday. Please, inside. His office is all glass and tidy power. A citywide feed crawls across a long screen at the back. Traffic, gate telemetry, hero deployments, a tiny box with the weather pretending to matter. He takes the far seat. We take the near ones. We'll be brief, Hayami says, steepling his fingers. We're offering support. The Eden Protocol has ETS calibrated for anomalies such as the one you handled with improvisation. If you provide us your raw data and permit an integrator to ride along, we can de-risk your future encounters. By ride along, you mean handler, I say. By de-risk, you mean leash, Momo adds, perfectly polite. Hayami's smile widens 1 millimeter. Words are flexible. Public safety is not. Aid 1 slides a folder over. Inside, a licensing addendum and an optimization oversight agreement. The clauses read like blades angled to look dull. Imagine a world, Hayami says, where no gate surprises us. Imagine coordination. Imagine predictability. I just saw a warehouse try to fold into a mouth, I say. I'm fresh out of imagination. Then let us carry the risk for you, he says. We keep the public calm. You stay heroes. Everyone wins. Everyone wins like the proctor did at the warehouse. Ochako asks, voice quiet and straight. He told us to stand down while people bled. He did what procedure allows, Hayami says. Procedure won't upset when things go wrong. That's how procedure keeps the world turning. People keep it turning, I say. He studies my face like a puzzle he's decided to enjoy. Midoriya Izuku, you will be extraordinary with or without us. With us, you will be survivable. Aid 2 taps to the last page. Signature field. Momo calmly closes the folder. W. E'll establish our own compliance regime. We will file our raid reports publicly. We will honor all legal rescue contracts. We will not accept eat-in handlers. Hayami's gaze slides from me to her. Do you speak for him? She doesn't look back. I speak clearly. Silence flexes, thin as glass. Hayami lets the second pass breathe, then gives the motion that says he's too gracious to be angry. Then I'll be clear as well. Without oversight, you are an uninsurable event. Cities will close their doors. Sponsors will look away. It would be sad for the good work you intend. Then they can watch, I say. Not own. Something cools behind his eyes. He stands. I applaud your ideals. Bring me your raw data anyway. We'll steward it safely. Later, I say, rising. We have injuries. He doesn't move to block us. He never would. That's not his kind of power. As we open the door, he gives us his last kindness, smooth as air. Midoriya, he says, and I turn. In the long run, heroes do not die from monsters. They die from math. Think about that. I don't give him the satisfaction of a reply. We leave. In the elevator, Ochako blows air up at her bangs. So that's a no. That's an, absolutely not. Thank you for the tea. Momo says, already pulling a tablet, thumbs accelerating. If we won't be leashed, we need a legal structure that forces transparency and lets us bid for rescue contracts without a sponsor berth. A guild, I say. A guild, she agrees. Bakugo is waiting outside on the steps, hands in his pockets like he owns the stairs. If you signed anything, I'm breaking your hand so you can't sign again. Quote, we didn't, I say. Good, I hate paperwork. Then you're going to love this, Momo says, dragging us toward the registrar office 2 blocks down. We have 6 hours to incorporate before the flood tender closes. The what now? Ochako asks, jogging to keep up. The city opened a standing humanitarian contract this morning. District 4. River up. Storm drains down. Gate signature overlapping the pediatric wing at East General. If we're not legal, we can't be there. I look at the screens in the registrar's anteroom. Flood footage loops without. Drama. Gray water nosing up hospital steps. People waiting with bags above their heads. No screaming. The quiet kind of emergency that learns your name later. Let's be there, I say. The clerk at THE counter looks like 3 hours of sleep and an entire pot of coffee. Momo smiles with a hospice nurse's gentleness and places forms in a sequence that rearranges the clerk's day for the better. Name, the clerk asks, yawning into the back of her wrist. Astra, Momo says. Wow, Bakugo deadpans. So subtle, so not Midoriya core. It's not his name, Momo says. It's ours. He scrunches his face like he might argue and then doesn't. Good sign. The printer shutters a license into the world. Momo slides it into a plastic sleeve like a sword into a scabbard. You're official, the clerk says. With the smallest ghost of a smile. Try not to drown. We jog the last block to the van. Sirens braid themselves over the street. The sky sits heavy without drama. The river has decided sidewalks are optional. On the way, I feel that fine touch on my wrist again, under the wrap, like a pen testing paper. Not now. Loadouts, I say as we slam doors. Ochako, evac, Momo, pumps and seals. I'll handle flow and structural. Bakugo, he smirks. Being mean to water. More like being surgical to weaknesses, Momo says, already creating. Collapsible pumps with self-priming intake, a crate of non-conductive tapes, anchors. A coil of chalk sealant, 3 compressed air canisters, a stack of bands with questionable scribbles around the edges. She slaps a band into my palm. It hums like a dragonfly. What's this? I ask. Focus ring. It remembers the last shape your mana took for 5 seconds and helps you reuse it without waste. Don't burn it. We have 2. I slide it over my wrap. The wrap doesn't protest. We take the ministry bypass and come up on East General from the rear staff lot. Water licks the curbs. The pediatric wing's ground floor lights blink like they're trying to argue with physics. An Eden van sits quiet by the loading dock. 4 operatives watch the hospital with clean boots and faces that say, containment, not care. White symbols on their lapels. A narrow circle inside a bigger one. Choir. Great. Stay out of my hallway, one of them says as we jump out. We're establishing a sanctified perimeter. Then sanctify the pumps when I put them down, Momo says, ducking under his arm without breaking stride. Or get a real job. He blinks, thrown by the cadence. Ochako's already up the ramp, palms out, voice low and warm. Parents first. Hands on the rail. We're going to float you to the vans, that's all. Keep your eyes on me. You're doing great. Bakugo snorts like he's allergic to praise and blasts forward into the flood. The shock wave knock. SA wave flat so two nurses can push a gurney through. He doesn't look back. Inside, the air tastes like copper. The hallway slants wrong. Water wants everything. I throw my hands out and don't bother with names. Ice. Silent. Not walls. Channels. Lines of slick glass curve down either side of the corridor, convincing the water that it likes those paths better. The flow obeys for now. The floor gives up on drowning and settles for sulking around my ankles. Left. A nurse shouts. NICU on the left. We reach double doors where a red light stutters. Momo slaps two bands beside the frame and drags chalk in fast. Graceless lines that somehow land in exactly the right geometry. She presses her palm to the bands. Open, she says. The doors bow instead of swing, then part. Cold air wipes my face. 8 isolettes. 8 tiny people who should never learn our names. Staff already moving with the precision of terror kept in a bottle. Ochako dances the room like she rehearsed it in a dream. Okay, sweet peas. We're going on a floaty ride. Her gloved hand kisses each isolette and the weight drops to something you can guide with 2 fingers. Parents make sounds I don't want to translate. Ochako smiles like muscle memory. Eyes on me. Count to 3. We become a conveyor belt of impossible things. Momo wires a pump to a fire hose and tells the water it wants to go to the street. It listens, grumbling. Bakugo takes up station at a turning point and uses controlled pops to smash incoming debris that would jam the flow. He times it with my channels like he's hearing music only we hear. Eden spreads their sanctified tape and watches. You're welcome to help, I tell them, not stopping. Our orders are to prevent divine contamination, their leader says. People are drowning, Ochako says without heat. People are always drowning somewhere, he replies, not unkind. We make sure they don't drown everywhere. Neat mission, Bakugo says, popping a half-submerged table into splinters with a snap of his wrist. Now save this place or go sing somewhere. We're 2 trips away from clearing the NICU when the air shifts. I don't hear it, my bones do. The lights buzz like bees inside a jar. A doctor stumbles in the doorway, eyes glassy, hand clamped around a scalpel he doesn't seem to know he's holding. Hey, I say, stepping between him and the isolettes. Sir, you're hypoxic. Balance, he says, voice not his. Accounts. All things equal. My wrap tightens on my wrist. The letters I resent flick in my periphery. Variance correction attempt. Local. A sigil. Pulses under the doctor's collarbone like a heartbeat run by someone else. The Eden leader goes still. He recognizes his own god's handwriting and doesn't know what to do with it on a human. Do not touch him, he says sharply. Get out of my hallway, Bakugo says, moving to the side so he can still blow up anything that tries to break through my channels. The doctor raises the scalpel toward T. He isolate like a sleepwalker pointing at a dream. My brain kicks through 10 ways to disable and 6 to restrain. I pick none. I step close and put my hand flat against the sigil. I don't try brute force. I don't yank. I thread. The brand isn't a sticker. It's a knot tied through a person into a system's math. I feel for the crossing point where the knot forgets which line is which, and I breathe there. Inhale. Think spiral. Exhale. Give it an exit that feels like its own idea. Midoriya, Momo says, low. Time. I know. The sigil fights, smart and cold. It doesn't want credit assigned. D to this body anymore because debt has piled up on it. Extra minutes of oxygen, hands that shook but didn't drop, a spouse who kissed a forehead at shift change and said, see you after. The ledger wants those minutes paid by subtraction. Not today, I tell it, and it isn't about the doctor. It's about whatever wrote the rules assuming nobody would argue. I twist the knot a fraction and slide a breath through. The brand unhooks with a small, ugly sigh, like something disappointed it lost the argument. It doesn't vanish. It leaves. The doctor hacks out one wet cough and drops the scalpel into my hand as if we agreed to trade. He blinks at me, human again. Where? Break room, Ochako says, gentle, guiding him to the door. Water. Sit. The Eden leader stares at my hand like I pulled a saint's tooth. What did you just do? Gave back a heartbeat that wasn't mine, I say, and keep moving. He doesn't try to stop us. The last two isolates float through like magic tricks in a space that decided to cooperate. Momo sets her pumps to a hum that makes the tiles sing. Bakugo stands in the doorway, chest heaving, water streaking his face like he lost an argument with a fire hose. He looks at me too long and then looks away. Don't make me say, good job, he mutters. Wouldn't dream of it, I say, and he barks a laugh that sounds like a cough trying to be cool. We pivot to the hallway where water shoulders in like a rude guest. Momo hands me a second band, the rune work still wet. Clip it to her harness, she says, chin to Ochako. It'll hold a bubble if she has to go under. 20 seconds. 25. Ochako says. Optimist build. 20. Momo insists, because lying kills. A bulge in the ceiling darkens. I throw stone up in a spider of ribs to take the weight. Then ice along the seams to stop the drip becoming a waterfall. My shadows. There are 3 now, the lieutenant and 2 smaller shapes with the patience of nurses, flow where people aren't looking. They lift without lifting, guide without touching. One of them adjusts a blanket around a kid's shoulders and the kid sighs into sleep. I don't know how to feel about being thankful to a thing that used to kill for sport. I decide to feel thankful anyway and learn the ethics later. Ambulance corridor is clear, Ochako calls. We can start exiting. The lights cut. For half a second, the hospital remembers how to be afraid. Then generators kick and a low yellow glows everywhere at once. In that syrup, a new problem rises. A filament of something crawls out of the drain like toothpaste in reverse. It has teeth where it shouldn't. 3 more follow. Their stink says river, not gate, flood rot given a shape by proximity to weirdness. Mine, Bakugo says, with the possessiveness of a cat spotting a red dot. He wades into the drain like it owes him rent. The first filament lunges and he lances it down the middle with a palm snap that doesn't blow the ceiling, doesn't boil the water, just slaps the gunk into glassy chunks. He's not guessing. He's reading. Right side, I call. They track heat. He shifts left and grins when the next one whiffs. You said, surgical. Watch this. He throws 3 small pops in a triangle around the drain opening. The pressure changes. The filaments sway into the triangle like weeds lean toward a stream. He pops the center and the triangle collapses in. The drain swallows its own problem. He wipes his mouth with the back of his hand like he just ate something he didn't hate. Nice, I say. Shut up, he says, but it's friendly around the edges. We clear the corridor. People pass like spills affect other people. Parents carry babies in plastic shells that don't seem real until a tiny hand hits the side like a fish in an aquarium. A nurse tells me she owes me coffee. I tell her she owes me nothing and to save the thanks for the night shift. Eden packs their tape. Their leader approaches like he's not sure whether to salute or arrest me. That brand, he says. We call it a corrective. You undid it. I asked it to go somewhere else, I say. His jaw works. That is not how corrections work. Maybe write new ones, I say, ND walk away before my mouth can make more enemies than my hands can rescue. We set our gear against the van and it looks used in the right ways. Momo notes inventory like she's listening to an orsh. Straw and making sure the strings aren't drowning the woodwinds. Ochako sits on the bumper and drinks from a bottle, eyes closed, head tipped back. Bakugo leans his head against the metal and pretends. He's not watching her smile into the sun she found behind her eyelids. Debrief, Momo asks. Later, I say, voice gone sandpaper. We've got one more corridor. We cleared the hospital, she says. Not talking about the hospital, I say, tapping the wrap on my wrist with 2 fingers. She watches my face for a count of 3 and nods. Okay, after we drop reports, public reports, Ochako says, opening her eyes. Where people can read receipts. Receipts, Bakugo repeats, amused like it's a battle cry. Nerds. A city official hurries over with too many thanks and a form we actually need this time. Momo signs. The official mentions a press thing at 4. We don't commit. The official doesn't mind. He's bone tired in the right way. He runs back into the hospital without remembering to pick up the pen he dropped. Ochako pockets it without a word and will give it back later after she cleans it. On the edge of the lot, the Eden leader lingers. He touches 2 fingers to his lape, L emblem, and then to his forehead like a prayer that isn't sure it's worth saying anymore. He looks at us, looks at the hospital, looks at his boots. Then he lifts his gaze. Children didn't drown, he says to no one in particular. No one drowns on our watch, Ochako answers. He nods once and walks away. He doesn't thank us. He doesn't have the language. It's fine. We load up. Before I close the van door, the world leans in with that thin, precise pen stroke again. Balance check. Variance increased. Interest accruing. I almost laugh. Interest. Like I asked for a loan and they're surprised. I'm spending it on people instead of a new suit. Hey, Ochako says, bumping my knee with hers. You spaced. I'm here. Good. Your face looked like a spreadsheet fighting God. Close. Mom. O passes me a fresh wrap with tiny sigils stitched inside the seam. This one will stop the brand from broadcasting. For now, I'd prefer you didn't get scheduled for auditing again inside a pediatric wing. Noted. She waits until the van hums to life, then leans back and lets her head hit the window with a soft thunk. Astra is live, she says, almost bemused at the fact. Tomorrow. Gear contracts, comms, legal counsel, the boring miracles. Boring gets us home, Ochako says. Bakugo kicks the back of my seat just hard enough to communicate affection. Don't get soft because you made a club. We made a guild, Momo corrects. Eyes half closed. Whatever. If the commission tries a cute thing, I'm blowing up their cute thing. They don't do cute things, I say. They do quiet ones. The van rolls. Water peels off the tires like we're disturbing a mirror. My shadow, the lieutenant, sits in the corner of the van where there isn't a corner and waits. The new ember in my chest, Riney, rests like a tiny star deciding whether to flare. I feel both of them and don't flinch. We cross a bridge. The city opens underneath like a hand. Somewhere in that grid, Hayami is sharpening a paper knife and calling it a safety measure. Somewhere above it, a calculus that calls itself a god is balancing a checkbook with people's breaths. We'll write better math. At a red light, Momo reaches over without looking and squeezes my fingers once. No speech. No skinny promises. Just pressure that says yes, keep going. I squeeze back and let go first because I need my hand to steer. Ochako spot. SA kid through the window on a parent's shoulders, holding up a cardboard sign. Thank you in purple marker, a crooked heart under it. She laughs once and the van feels warmer for no reason physics can argue. The light flips green. We drive. Chapter 2 end. Chapter 3. The rival who refused to lose. Rules are simple, the announcer says like he's practicing being neutral. 3 clean tags to the scoring zone, or 1 decisive control. No lethal force. Exhibition only. Bakugo rolls his shoulders like the word exhibition owes him money. We're standing on opposite ends of an old training arena. The city rented for community engagement. A half-circle of bleachers holds pros, reporters, students, and a non-zero number of people who came to watch us solve an argument with physics. Momo and Ochako are at my corner. Shoto leans on the rail a few rows up, unreadable and very much tuned in. Near the entrance, white-jacketed Eden operatives set up 4 slender pylons with little halos of chrome on top. The pylons look like air purifiers. The halos look like someone's minimalist art project. They're not air purifiers, Momo says under her breath, eyes flicking through her tablet's spectrum feed. Signal dampeners with something braided in. See the phase drift. I see it, I say, even though what I feel is a mild itch along my wrap. The letters under it cool and quiet. Keep an eye on them. Got it, Ochako says. She checks my vest straps, casual, focused. No bleeding, no bravado. Dance smart. I always dance smart, I say. Bakugo laughs from his side of the line, short and sharp. You learn to dance smart watching me not die. Then teach me something new, I call back. Preferably fast. The crowd ripples at the banter. Hayami sits in a private row like a punctuation mark, hands folded, eyes calm. 3 aides arranged with the serenity of chess pieces. He gives me the tiniest nod that says, "I'm watching your math." The ref raises a flag. On my. Bakugo doesn't jump the start. He waits. He loves the first clean beat where a fight chooses the song. The flag drops. We move. He goes lateral, not straight. Good, pacing me with pop-skip bursts that nudge air into crosswinds. He's testing my footwork, not my face. I cut wind into a sleeve along my forearm, stone into the ground under my toes to stop slide, and stay just outside his comfortable radius. Furs. Chi exchange. He snaps a 3-beat string at my chest, a high-low high that would ring the scoring zone twice if he lands it. I let the first graze a buckler I don't show him, shave the second under my elbow, and step into the third to make him hate his angle. He laughs, honest, because he didn't expect me to take the space then. Okay, he says, eyes bright. Good. Again. He feints right. IBU. Wyatt for half a heartbeat on purpose to check the churn of his wrists. He's changed the micro timing on his pops. The pause between priming and detonation is shorter by a thought. More control. Less waste. He's been working. I pivot. Elbow shields a tag at my ribs, and the ref's counter clicks once. Him 0, me 1. Luck, he says, amused. Pattern, I say. He grins because that's exactly the kin. D of thing that makes him mad enough to improve. He comes in wave fast, bursts of pressure that don't blast so much as nudge the idea of where I want to be. I let 2 pushes move me where he wants, on. The third he expects a roll and I stop dead, stone bracing my calves like a wall only I feel. His palm nick misses by a hair. My counter tap kisses his shoulder pad. Click. Him 0, me 2. Cute. He says, no heat. Don't say. Cute. Mid-fight, I say. People will ship us. Let them, he says, and tries to tag my mouth for that one. We're smiling, but the arena isn't. The Eden pylons hum the longer we go. Halos pulsing in a rhythm that doesn't match the ref's clock. Momo's tone drops in my ear. They're sinking to a grid that isn't ours. Hold it, I murmur. Already holding, she says. Fingers ghosting over a ring on her table, a thin band etched with quick runes, prototype level. I can lock their drift for a minute. Don't make me spend it yet. Bakugo hears none of this. He only hears me exhale a fraction too long and drives at that gap. He doesn't explode the air. He bends it with a pair of soft pushes that make my ankle roll into bad geometry. My back hits floor. He goes F, or the clean chest tag that would even the score in one flare. The buckler snags his wrist and slides the tag wide. He blinks, impressed despite himself. That's new. Spellblade, I say, because Ables are toys you play with when your hands are busy. Job perks. He barks a laugh. Nerd. He backs off instead of pressing dumb. Good. He respects me enough not to play for a rush. We circle again, listening for strings nobody else hears. Shoto's mouth edges like he's suppressing a smile. Ochako rocks on her heels like she wants to dance in our light. Momo watches the pylons. Their halo frequency just shifted, she murmurs. Eden's waiting for something. Hayami has to know. Everyone knows, I say. They just want to see how we play the turn. He comes again, this time a vertical SW. That would launch me into the air if I let it, perfect for a ring out. I don't let it. I lean into it, wind turned down around my joints to reduce lift, stone pushing into the sole of my shoe so I'm heavier than I look. I slide under his guard and tap a clean shoulder. Click. Him 0, me 3, except the ref doesn't call match. The counter lights blink, then dim, then go dark. The pylons, halos flare white. Bakugo's expression flattens. Ah, he says. There it is. Seraph lances drop from the halos like threads of light, then telescope into 6-foot spears planted around the ring in a perfect circle. The air tilts colder without getting cold. My skin crawls. Ochako swears under her breath. Momo's fingers are already moving. Containment perimeter, Eden's captain announces through a voice amp, almost apologetic. For public safety. Funny, Bakugo says. I don't feel safer. I test a wind blade along my arm. It skates across nothing and comes back thinner. The lances aren't blocking force. They're auditing it and docking a fee. Quirks blunted. Mana shaved. Anything that smells like more gets taxed. Drain field, I say. Tax field, Bakugo says. Serif geometry. White choir loves their straight lines. Can you pop them? I ask. Not if they're drinking my blast before it grows teeth, he says. But, maybe. Hayami's aides watch without blinking. Hayami touches his chin with one index finger, thoughtful. Like a professor grading an essay where the student insists on building a new alphabet mid-paragraph. The ref looks at his dead counter, then at the ring of spears, then at Eden. As this, continue the exhibition, the captain replies. We've simply raised safety standards. Momo's voice is knife calm. They're not safety anything. They're bidirectional drains. If you dump force into them, they'll store and reflect on command. If Eden flips the switch, both of you get bagged. Fun, Bakugo says. Let's ruin their fun. We move again, like nothing changed, except everything did. I keep my casts tight to skin, no showy reach, using stone only to stabilize steps and wind only to sharpen edges within 6 inches. Bakugo shortens his pops so much the sound barely cracks. He's adapting in a heartbeat, building pressure at hip range, not arm. He goes low. I go lower. He tries a knee tag sneak. I roll my shoulder and catch the tap on padding that doesn't count. Even score not acknowledged. The crowd doesn't see the math. They see 2 kids refusing to become the commission's message. Left gate, Momo says into my ear. The second pylon has a phase wobble. If you stand there and don't cast for 3 seconds, I can shove a mis-tuned signal into it. It might cough. I don't love being bait, I say. I'll bake you a cake. Chocolate, obviously. I drift left, letting Bakugo smell blood so he'll hurt me, and then I stand still. He frowns because standing still isn't how I live. He doesn't take the free hit because he knows a trap when he sees one. Move, he says. Shish, I say. Don't shish me mid. The pylon coughs. The halo flickers. The lance shivers a fraction like it forgot whether up is up. Bakugo's grin is feral. Now, he asks. Now, I say. He throws a triangle. 3 soft pops at knee height that set up a push-not blast pattern. The field latches onto the first and second like a cat seeing a laser pointer. The third one he sends not at me. Not at a lance. He sends it between 2 halos, into the seam where they're auditing overlap. The field tries to assign credit to both, fails, and hands the energy to nobody. It just hangs there. Hungry and stupid. I feed it a whisper of wind. It takes the whisper like a starving thing. It grows into a pocket of pressure that isn't loyal to any spear. The drain geometry jitters as it tries to balance itself. Not enough to break. Enough to shudder. Again, I say, already on it. We do it twice more. And the ring of lances is no longer a sermon, it's a choir with a cough. The Eden captain barks into his wrist mic. Stabilize. On my mark. Mark this, Bakugo says, and this time he pops a 4th beat, tiny, mean, under the 3rd. The seam buckles. I jump through the buckle. Body folded like a penknife, and in that cut of clean air where the tax doesn't bite, I open my left hand and release a shadow. Not the lieutenant. A thinner shape. Quick and curious. With a hunger that looks like mischief. It squirms out of my heel and skates along the floor like a smudge nobody notices. It rises behind Bakugo's left shoulder, fingers extended. Don't you dare, he says without turning his head. Just a feint. Feint this, he says, and whips his elbow through the space my shadow would have tagged. He's not blind to the 3rd teammate I pretend is invisible. He hates my tricks and respects them anyway. Good. We bounce off the seam again. My blade catches his bracer and sticks. His wrist torque surprises me. He's wearing a subtle micro Euro Hibui. LT in shop or stole from a support course friend. It eats my angle and flings my edge wide. Where'd you get that? I ask, separating. Trade secret, he says, and tags my ribs once. The ref's counter stays dead. He snarls. Count the hit. No one does. Make your own score, I say. Gladly. He comes in heavy. I let him. He drives me backward into the brightest part of the drain. My ring by. Tase my skin to warn me I'm about to be taxed into dizziness. He's gambling that the drain punishes me harder than him. He's right. For a second, I open a pocket of stone under my heel and fall just enough that his palm skims air. The mist tumbles him forward. He adjusts midair with a pop that would be pretty if I wasn't trying to win. I slip under his arm, wind line flicking at his strap. He too CKS his shoulder and denies me the angle. We break. Across the ring, the Eden team palming their wrist consoles stop pretending they aren't itching to press a button. Hayami's face doesn't change, his aides lean forward a millimeter in perfect sync. Seraph lances are seconds from a dump, Momo says. They'll flip the field inward and suck both of you. I can only dirty their timing once. Do it, I say, and Bakugo says, do it. At the same time, we launch at each other like we mean to collide. Eden wants 2 outliers bagged. Fine, give them a picture. Our feet draw twin arcs toward the center. The lances, halos brighten, ready to eat. Now, Momo says. She pops a tiny charm from her palm that looks like a brass seed and flips it into the air. It bursts in silence. The halos all link at different times. The choir loses its harmony. The field tries to dump and can't decide which way to tip. We cut through the hiccup. I thread 2 lances with an insult of mana, just enough to make them chase a lie. Bakugo fires one tight pop into the seam we starved before. The dump catches itself and throws a pressure ring outward. For a breath the ring is ours. I ride it, using the push to whip around Bakugo's shoulder. He anticipates the wrap and slides away before I can catch the strap. He clips my side with a glancing tag that doesn't count and grins like a problem set finally interesting. Come on, nerd, he says. Stop dodging. Make me, I say. He does. He forces a clinch, hands hard at my forearms, and it becomes the tight fight people forget we can do. He's stronger in short grapples. I'm faster at changing an angle into a question. Our eyes meet over the chin bar. He says without words, if I win, it's because I earned it, not because they leashed you. Same, I say back. I drop my center of gravity with a pulse of stone and push wind into a twist, not to throw him, to make his hip forget where his knee is. He counters with a micro pop at my ankle that turns my step into a wobble. We trade control like cards. Noise filters into a tunnel and falls away. He sees an opening I gave him on purpose and takes it with both hands, because that's who he is. He drives in for the chest tag. I let my shadow touch his elbow. He jerks to punish the feint and overcorrects by a breath. I give the overcorrection back with a thread yank on his strap that does nothing except send the signal, turn here. He turns. His right arm crosses his body just enough that when I slide, I don't slide around him, I slide through the space where his guard was. My palm kisses the SC. Oring zone on his chest and sticks for the count. 1, 2, 3. The ref's counter is dead, but 1,000 phones aren't. The crowd roars the count instead. 2, 3. Bakugo holds still, Brea. Thing like he just ran stairs with a weight vest. He looks down at my hand, at the place I tagged, then at me. He could make this ugly. He doesn't. Fine, he says, and the word is respect. I lift my hand. We break. I step back 1 pace. He does too. We both look at Eden's ring. Drop it, Bakugo says to the captain. Exhibition's over. The captain hesitates, checks Hayami, then cuts power. He lances retract back into pretend air purifiers. The halos go dim. The arena exhales like a building that forgot it wasn't a person. The ref waves his arms like he can turn chaos into a box with a ribbon. Match concludes. He says, voice cracking. Winner. Midoriya, by general acknowledgement. General acknowledgement sounds like a law trying to catch up with a fact. Good enough. Bakugo walks to the center. I meet him there. Cameras tilt. Every hand in the stands wants a picture of what we do next. I put out mine. He eyes it like he's insulted by the implication that we need a handshake to make it real. He slaps my hand away. Classic. And then grabs my forearm with a squeeze that says what his mouth refuses. I squeeze back. Not a show. A signal. Don't let them draft a narrative off this, he murmurs. Write a better one, I say. We break. Reporters surge. Ochako appears between me and the nearest boom mic like she teleported, smile sunny, body language firm. We're PPY to take questions about rescue operations, she says, and steers them into the lane we chose. Momo steps in on the other side and slides a tablet to the closest camera. Astra's public raid logs, already posted, already annotated. Receipts in order. She doesn't mention Eden's lances. She doesn't have to. Everyone saw the halos. Let the city decide how it feels about safety that blinks on when the score isn't going the right way. Hayami stands. He doesn't clap. He gives me that same tidy nod, almost courteous. Then he turns to go. As he passes the Eden captain, he tilts 2 fingers in a mo. Cheon that translates to "we'll talk later" in language only bureaucrats speak. I exhale and roll my shoulders. The wrap on my wrist tightens, not painfully, just enough to say you're not done paying yet. The thin letters I hate thread into my peripheral vision and carve their reminder with the neatness of a scalpel. Debtor. I tug the new wrap Momo gave me over the mark before the nearest camera ca. Grab a zoom and make a morning show out of it. The letters fade under the cloth like a scolded ghost. Arm, Momo says softly. I give it. She checks the strap under my vest, straightens it the way. You straighten someone's tie before a photo. No fanfare. She notices the tension under my skin and doesn't ask. You won fair, she adds, like she's correcting a story only I'm telling myself. He did too, I say. Yeah, she says. 2 things can be true. Bakugo, now surrounded by classmates and pros eager to slap his back, shoves them off like gnats and points at the ring. We're doing that again, he calls. After we nap, I call back. Coward, strategist. Ochako laughs into her hand. You two are ridiculous. Is that legal? A reporter asks her, pointing at the place my shadow slid along the floor. She shrugs like the question is about the weather. Is what legal? Winning a fight you started by trying to win. She pats the mic with 1 finger. We're taking questions about rescues. Shoto steps down from the rail and drifts our way like he just happened to be going in that direction. You used his overcorrection, he says to me without preamble. He showed it to me, I say. Only because he assumed you would punish the faint, he says. I did, I say. Just. Later. Shoto almost smiles. You two make the commission nervous for different reasons. We'll make them honest for the same one. Ochako says. A rattle at the arena door pulls my eyes. Eden is disassembling their pylons with a politeness that feels like a dare. The captain glances at me. There's no apology there. There's no gloat. Just a quiet itch that says we did what we were told. I don't say a speech at him. He wouldn't know where to put it. He nods, almost like children didn't drown, and leaves. Outside, the sky looks like it might try rain and then decides against it. The day tastes like metal and victory and the part after adrenaline where your body remembers it's a body. I let my hands shake once behind my back. Then I stop them. Guild meeting. Momo asks. Press first, Ochako says, squaring her shoulders. Then food. Then guild. Then training. Bakugo yells from 20 feet away without turning around. Because apparently his hearing is radar now. Then nap, I say. Coward. Strategist. We pack up. The arena empties into a stairwell of overlapping voices and half-heard opinions. Did you see? Thought Eden was. No, I'm saying the kid. What's Astra? Hayami looked. Bakugo's elbow. No one mentions a god. Good. Let's keep divine accounting off the docket for one more afternoon. On the way out, a girl in a cheap hero merch hoodie stops me with a breathless, hey. Sorry, I just. She fumbles a pen. Ochako hands her a spare before the pen hits the ground. Thanks. Can you sign? Not a shirt, my cast. I broke my wrist a month ago. You made me feel like I'll still be strong after. I blink because my brain wasn't ready for that. I sign carefully, big loopy letters. And draw a tiny wind line that isn't real wind and definitely won't activate. She beams like we made the day usable. She runs back to her friend, who is bouncing in small circles. Momo watches my face like she's observing a weather system. You okay? Yeah, I say, and mean it. She starts to say something, then doesn't. Instead she reaches, quick and private, and fixes a loose piece of hair at my temple like she's straightening a detail on a blueprint. Her fingers pause a fraction longer than they need to. She lowers her hand. Press, she says. Let's give them receipts. We do. Ochako talks paths and pumps. Momo talks procurement and transparency. I talk about people who didn't drown and a doctor who got his heartbeat back. We don't mention brands or lances or ledgers. We don't have to. We show what we are by the way we stand. After, as the last camera blinks off, Bakugo shoulders past like a meteor that chose not to hit anyone. He bumps his fist into my chest once. A quiet thunk on the scoring zone. Keep up, he says. With you, I ask. Always. He snorts. Don't get cute. Too late, I say, and he grins like a threat with a soft center he won't admit. We step into the hallway. I feel the wrap shift over my wrist, the hidden letters heat and cool like a whisper I could tune into or out of. Deader. Fine. If the math is wrong, we'll write better math. Right now, we've got a guild to run, a city to keep upright, and a rival who refuses to let me coast. That's more than enough. Chapter 3 End. Chapter 4. The choice that makes an enemy human. Left tunnel. Now, I cut a wind line along the floor and we slide as a unit. Me, Momo, Ochako, Bakugo, 2 medics, into a corridor that keeps trying to turn into a throat. The labyrinth gate hates straight lines. It prefers curves that lie. Stones pop overhead. I stitch silent braces into the ceiling as we run. Shoto ices a side wall to stop it from breathing. Somewhere behind us, an Eden squad sings into their comms like the right hymn will make geometry behave. Signal, I ask. Momo shakes her head once. Map refreshes every 30 seconds. I don't trust it past 5. Trust your feet, Bakugo says. And blows a hook-mouthed crawler into neat, harmless glass that drifts like bad snow. We hit a chamber that shouldn't exist. Wide, low, edges lit like a memory. The smell isn't rot, it's milk. Dozens of pale pods pulse in the floor like someone planted a nursery in wet stone. Figures crowd between them, tall, jointed, with faces like vertical slits and hands built to cradle, not cut. Every one of them turns toward us and coils. Contact. Ochako breathes, lifting both palms. But look at their hands. One of the figures steps forward, chest plates fretted like a harp. A light flickers in its center. Steady, not hungry. Behind its legs, 2 new pods twitch. The figure angles its body to block us from seeing. Commission channel pops on our ear. Astra. Confirm. Hostile tribe discovered. Sentience in a brood chamber, I say, voice level. Not attacking. Protecting. Confirmed. Protocol Theta 7. Preemptive neutralization. No concessions. Ochako's jaw tightens. They're cradling infants. Repeat. Neutralize. Do not extract assets. Bakugo snorts. Say it louder so the cave hears your courage. Shoto doesn't look away from the pods. If we start a fight, nothing fragile survives. The harp-chested one steps forward and holds both hands open in a very human shape that happens to be attached to not human fingers. It hums, 3 notes. The floor under our boots stops flexing. The pods, glow steadies. Midoriya, Momo says softly. Your call. 2 breaths. Then a third. I raise my hands, empty. We don't want your children, I say. And let the words go without power behind them. We want everyone to leave alive. The tribe behind the leader mutters in a language that sounds like air moving through carved bone. The leader tips its head and answers me with a clear gesture. A circle over its chest, then 2 fingers pointing at the pods, then an open palm toward a side tunnel. You go. We hold. Commission says wipe. Bakugo says in my ear. So we're not doing that. Correct, I say. Eden's captain steps into the chamber with 2 choir behind him, lances collapsed, helms off. He takes in the brood, the posture, the fact that we haven't started shooting. His face is stone smoothed by water. Midoriya, step aside. This is a nursery, I say. Everything is a risk, he says. We remove risks. You remove futures if you get this wrong. I remove headlines. He lifts his wrist to call in authority. Momo is faster. She slides a stamped form under his palm like a magician changing the card. Astra Rescue Claim. Clause 12. Civilian Sanctuary Conditions. The clause isn't meant for aliens with harp chests. It doesn't say it isn't. Sanctuary holds until a tribunal, she says. Calm. If you want to explain. To a judge that these are not civilians, bring a microscope and a conscience. He looks at the form. He looks at the pods. He looks at us and decides he doesn't get paid enough to make this one alone. You have 10 minutes. Make them count, I whisper. A second vibration threads the stone. Not Eden. Not commission. Thin as a pen on cold paper. Balance check. Variance rising. Interest due soon. I keep my face still. The leader hums one note and 3 smaller adults peel off to guide us to the far corner. They organize themselves into a shield. Behind them, I spot a pod that isn't pulsing right. The light inside flutters like a candle someone is arguing with. Let me see, I say, stepping slow. 2 guards bristle. The leader signs a shape with both hands, permission, and looks at me. Like a question that could break either way. I kneel. No speeches. Hands only. I lay 2 fingers on the stone near the pod and thread a whisper of heat into the seam, not to force it open, to remind it what opening is. The rhythm inside steadies, then sinks with the others. Something soft brushes my ankle. A shadow rises where the floor meets the wall, my lieutenant. It looks at the pods, then at me, then at my hands. Behind it, 2 smaller silhouettes uncoil. Rinya's ember flickers low under my ribs, curious and watchful. The lieutenant signs a shape I've seen it used to ask for permission to break something. It isn't that shape. It's asking. This, too. The question sits heavy. Not for fighting, I whisper. For keeping. It tilts its head. Agreement if it can be done clean. I don't promise. I stand. Talk to me, I say to the leader. Useless words, but posture matters. I point at my chest. Izuku. I point at my people. Astra. I point at the pods. I press my palm to the floor. Home. The leader presses its palm to the same spot. Home. Then it draws a line across its own chest, edge to edge, and holds up both hands. The line glows. The smell changes. Salt, metal, hot rain on dust. You're hurt, Ochako says. The glow isn't wound, it's something like used up. The leader hums 2 notes I don't know how to translate. Then it steps closer. Close enough that I see fine cracks in its chest plates. Tiny threads of light running between like veins drawn with a ruler. Momo's voice is a whisper built out of nails. Izuku. It's not going to survive the collapse. The leader taps its chest. Then the pod that was fading. Then my shadow. Me right pointing arrow them right pointing arrow you. Its hands shake. It's not fear. It's running out of time. Commission channel again. Sharper. Hayami's voice this time. Smooth as glass. Midoriya. Comply with Theta 7. These entities propagate S-rank potential. Remove the brood. I'm exercising sanctuary, I say. You don't have that authority. We filed for it, publicly. A 1-second pause full of lawyers. You're playing at policy in an environment that doesn't forgive play. I know, I say. Stay off my channel. I cut him. He lets me. The leader lifts both hands and places them on either side of my wrists without touching. The heat through the air is grief-shaped. It tilts its head in the same angle the lieutenant uses when waiting for an order. It doesn't kneel. It doesn't ask to live. It asks for continuity. Okay, I say, and my stomach drops through my shoes. On your terms. Bakugo shifts. You sure about this, nerd? No, I say, but it's what's in front of us. I set my palm over the leader's chest where the plates glow. The window opens like it has been waiting. Shadow conversion. Subject. Brood matriarch. Local designation unknown. Status. Terminal. Memory anchors available. Mode. Preserve. I don't pick. Weapon. I don't pick. General. I pick preserve. The tribe hisses like I stole a bright thing. The leader lays one hand on the floor and sings a note that quiets them. Then it looks up at me and holds its breath. It doesn't have lungs like mine. The room does. On your terms, I repeat. I draw, not power. Story. I pull the pattern of its light into the angle under my feet where shadows live and ask my realm to make room without arming it. The lieutenant's posture stiffens. This is not how it was built. It wants ranks. It wants edges. It wants to be useful in the clean, sharp way of knives. No, I say to it, out loud and in. Not every saved thing gets a blade. The lieutenant's head lowers a millimeter. Obedience with questions pinned underneath. The smaller shadows flare as if offended. Rinya's ember warms in my ribs like a hand tightens. The line across the leader's chest opens without blow. OD in a sound leaves it that is not a scream. It's relief stripped to bone. The light pours into my shadow and spreads thin, then thinner, then changes. The lieutenant steps back, instinctively protective. In that space, a third presence forms. Not tall, not built for hit and run, a keeper. It doesn't reach for the pods like a fighter. It settles near them like ground. I almost cry and don't because I need my eyes. The room holds still. Behind me, the choir shift, lances half raised. If that thing comes out swinging, one says softly, we pin it. It won't, I say. It can't. The leader sways. Its body stays upright through will. It places both hands on my shoulders and presses its head to my brow like a greeting I wasn't trained for. Then it looks over my shoulder at the tribe and hums a phrase that sounds like, remember in order. It kneels. It dies on its feet. There's no fall. Light leaves. Posture softens. Plates go dull. The tribe doesn't wail. They still. The pods keep their rhythm. In my shadow, the new presence breathes. Not like lungs. Like the first page of a book. The lieutenant stands beside it, uncertain, then adjusts, becoming guard instead of spear. The smaller shadows linger at the edge, restless and unamused. They speak without words the way storms do. We are teeth. Why do you make us cradle? I answer with the one truth I can carry, because someone has to. A thin, neat window carves itself into my view like a paper cut. Balance check. Mercy recorded as variance. Interest increased. Notice. External audit scheduled. Cool. Bakugo says dryly. When I pass a hand over my face and my fingers come away shaking. Your god accountant likes bills. It can get in line, I say. The tribe's second in command, smaller, shoulders cut with a different set of responsibilities, steps up. It touches my wrist where the wrap hides the brand and flinches at whatever it feels there. Then, deliberate, it touches my other wrist and hums a question. Anchor, Momo murmurs. They'll trust you if the memories stick. I nod. We'll build a preserve. No drafting. No orders. We carry until you're strong enough to carry yourselves. Bakugo grimaces. You just promised to be a daycare. I promised to be a place, I say. Worse, he mutters, but there's a small proud edge hiding in the grump. Eden's captain watches the tribe arrange around the pods again, tighter now. Grieving edged into duty, he sees my shadow bloom a new corner to itself where nothing sharp grows. He rubs a thumb over his emblem like it has answers. You made yourself liable, he says finally. I made a choice, I say. Your choices make waves. So do you, I say, nodding at his lances. Maybe try not to drown the nursery. He almost says something like sorry. He settles for, move fast, and steps back, carving us 10 more minutes with his body language if not his orders. We work. Momo plants seal stakes that turn 3 weak walls into one honest barrier. Ochako F. Lotes rubble out without pulling a single pod. Shoto chills a ceiling crack before it becomes a flood. Bakugo prowls the perimeter like a wolf who adopted a fence against his instincts. As we stabilize, the tribe's second in command taps 2 fingers against my wrap again. I hold out my palm. It presses something tiny and warm into it, a bead of hardened light that smells like fresh rock. I don't absorb it, I tuck it into the seam of my glove. A promise to return, I think, or a name, I'll ask later. We pull back in good order. In the tunnel, Hayami returns to my ear in a voice small enough to fit through wire. Astra, there will be questions. There were already questions, I say. There will be warrants. Then write them clean, I say. We'll bring our receipts. He breathes once, patient like a cat watching a fishbowl. You think you're defending humanity from gods. Mostly, you are defending it from its own stories. Then stop writing bad ones, I say, and cut him again. Outside the gate, afternoon hits like a hand on a back. Reporters swarm. Momo slides our public report into the world before anyone can plant a narrative. Rescue numbers, structural stabilization, sanctuary claim filed, tribunal requested. No photos of the brood. No alien baby thumbnails for clicks. Ochako keeps questions pointed at who lived. Shoto disappears like smoke. Bakugo makes a camera flinch backward by grinning too hard. 2 heroes from an older generation stand near the cordon, helmets off, quiet in a way I respect. One of them catches my eye and nods once. You chose. The other watch. My rap like she hears the same thin pen I do and makes a face like she bit something sour for me. An ambulance door slams. A mother presses her forehead to glass and cries the kind of cry that happens when the danger is done and your body finally gives permission. She doesn't know what we did or didn't do under the city. She doesn't have to. We sit on the curb behind the van because nobody's street opts and because the curb is a place and places matter. My shadow pools at my feet and doesn't stretch into knives. It stays. In the back of my mind, a new room hums soft where there will be no drilling and no drilling practice. My chest hurts in a way that will fade. Momo leans into my shoulder and lets her head rest there like she did that once before and it worked. You were scared, she says, not as an accusation. Of playing God, I say. Of turning people into parts. She turns her hand over until our fingers find each other. Warm, not rushed, not performative. You didn't, she says. You built a door. You asked before you opened it. I breathe like someone turned down a bad radio. I'm still a debtor. Then pay with better math, she says, squeezing once. We are very good at math. Bakugo drops onto the curb on my other side and lets his shoulder knock mine like a hit he pretends is a nudge. For the record, he says, if any of your cuddle shadows point a finger at a civilian, I'm turning them into confetti. They won't, I say. Because you told them not to. Because they don't want to. He snorts. You're ridiculous. You like me ridiculous. He doesn't answer that, which is an answer. A patrol car creeps up. An officer who doesn't enjoy her job enough to make it gross steps out and offers me a tablet with a face that says I already hate this, help me do it right. Notice of detainment for questioning sits on the screen with the politeness of a shark in a bow tie. Your counsel can meet you there, she says quietly. I don't want cuffs. Give me an excuse to not use cuffs. Momo's already messaging 3 lawyers. Ochako lifts the tablet and reads without flinching. You're not arresting the whole team. No, the officer says. Just the one with the debt. The brand under my rap goes from cool to warm, a polite reminder that even honest choices cost. I sign. Not surrender. Process. We load into the van. The city rolls by with the indifference of a giant and the sweetness of a neighbor who waters your plants when you're gone. Inside my shadow, a keeper hums to pods that remember a song. Hey, Ochako says, bumping my knee. You did the right next thing. That's all I've got, I say. That's everything anyone's got, she says. The van turns toward a building with glass that likes to look like mercy. Hayami will smile. Paper will cut. We'll show up with receipts and a nursery that didn't drown. I check the wrap. The letters are neat and humorless. Debtor. Interest due. Final audit. Pending. Don't go quiet, Momo says, reading my face. I'm here. She squeezes my fingers again. Small, decisive. Good. Let's argue better than them. Plan. Bakugo says. You talk. I glare. If they get cute, I redecorate. Let's start with talk, I say. Fine. He grumbles. But then redecorate. We drive into a sunset that isn't symbolic. It's just the sun doing its job. We'll do ours. Chapter 4 end. Chapter 5. The city with a halo. Sirens layer over each other until the air feels braided. The first alert says flood. The second says fire. The third doesn't bother with a word. It pings our guild line with a pulse that makes my molars buzz. Momo looks up from the map wall. New gate signature. Not ground level. Where? I ask, already grabbing my vest. She points through the glass. I look past her shoulder and get my answer. The sky drew a circle. It sits over Mushoku like a crown someone forgot to put away. Bright ring, cross-hatched sigils rotating inside the circumference. Not pretty. Clean. Peo. PLE on sidewalks stop and point like tourists. Phones rise. Bakugo whistles. Low. That's not a gate. That's a mood. Cathedral formation. Shoto says, steady. I've seen pictures from the Baltic incident. Those weren't real. Ochako says, tying her hair in a quick knot. Those were composites. Congratulations, Momo says, all business. Now they're real. A white truck with an Eden crest. T and too many antennae slides into the street below like it was waiting for this day to feel special. On the flatbed. A machine shaped like a ring laid flat within a ring, prongs tilting up. The pain. Chi around its bolted plates glows faintly even in daylight. Momo doesn't swear often. She does now, very politely. Eden crown. They're going to stabilize, I say, quoting with my eyebrows. You're going to leash it to a frequency they control, she says, tapping through 3 menus fast. And if that frequency matches the stuff in your wrap, we have a bigger problem than just a ring over downtown. Assignments, I say, and the room switches tempo. Ochako, evac corridors, turn stairwells into slides, roofs into landing pads. Momo, enchant spine lines along the boulevard, rooftop to rooftop, feed me when I call. Shoto, ice baffles to block shockwaves, not trap people. Bakugo, your push team. Smash only where I say, smash. He snorts. You're bossy when the sky gets dramatic. Focused, I say, bossy, he says, but he's already moving. We roll. By the time Astra hits the first cordon, the ring has thickened, light braided through light, a halo big enough to cast shadow. The Eden crown deploys with a hum only dogs should hear. Choir operatives kneel around it and lift their faces like someone told them to pretend to be gentle. Their captain, same man from the hospital, meets my eyes with a look that says he didn't choose this but he isn't backing off it either. Midoriya, he says, stand clear. The crown will remove unsafe variants. Define unsafe, I say. Anything that doesn't balance, he says. He actually believes that's an answer. Above us, the ring sings. Not melody. Numbers given a voice. The air tastes like the juice from overripe apples. My wrap warms under the focus band. The thin letters I hate drag across my peripheral vision. Balance check. Anticipated variance extreme. Correction prepared. Crowds, Ochako says into my ear, breath clip. Ped as she staggers a package of gravity down a stairwell. Eastern quadrant is already bottlenecking. I need a lane. Shoto, I say. I'm on it, he replies, dropping a glossy slope over a bus stow. So families can slide into the plaza instead of trampling each other on the steps. Kids whoop like the world gave them a playground in a crisis. Good. Fear travels faster than light unless you hand it something fun to trip over. Momo's voice takes on a conductor's cadence. Anchors placed. Rooftop lines humming. I can give you 10 seconds of citywide. Yes, when you call it, then I'll have to rebuild. Save it, I say. We'll need it when the crown sneezes. We slide under a parking awning as the ring's inner sigils lock. The crown's prongs tilt and spit a gentle arc that touches the halo like a fork at a choir loft. The city's lights dip, not off, just humble. The ring flares brighter. For a moment, nothing happens. Then everything does. Light falls from the halo in very precise strands. They don't hit the ground. They stop 10 meters above it and stretch horizontally, knitting a glowing net across 6 blocks. Where the net passes, quirks cough and go quiet like someone hit a mute button. People stumble. A woman looks at her hands in fear as sparks that should be there aren't. A man with a wing quirk crumples mid-flap and drops onto Shoto's ice with a shout and a laugh, unharmed, embarrassed, relieved. Good fail. The Eden captain says, into no microphone in every ear, all accounts must balance. I feel the words in my teeth. They're not his voice. It's coming through him. Through the crown. Through the halo. The choir only has one note, inevitability. Ion, I say, inside my head and also aloud. The letters oblige. Ion. Present. Function. Audit. Statement. All miracles incur debt. Cool doctrine. Bakugo says, looking up. Hate it. Ditch doctrine and move your feet, I say. Push team. Left. Ochako. Lane 2. Momo. Buy me 15 seconds of citywide feed. I'm going up. Already wiring the line, Momo says. You say go, I'll light the roof grid. There's no staircase to the roof. I make one. Stone. Silent. Not pretty. Enough. The halo's inner rim ripples like it's thinking. The net stops blinking and chooses a radius, tightens, focuses. The area inside it goes quiet in a deeper way. Quirks fail. Mana feels like slogging through sand. Par. A medic catches a respiratory patient's tank with a knee because her telekinesis just isn't. I throw my hands out and weave without words. Incantationless wide weaves are tricky not because they're hard, but because you have to want them with your whole body. I spool a pattern over that paramedic's lane. Air thinner but enough, gravity leaning away from the stretcher, 6 tiny pushes for wheels that don't stick. She doesn't look up, she just moves. That's trust. The crown hums higher. The choir's lips move. Ion's voice steals. Debit recognized. Credit withdrawn. Translation. Bakugo asks, and then the air makes it clear. The ring zeroes a circle 2 blocks wide. Not permanent. A field. Inside it, quirks and mana go away. Not drained. Denied. Shadows shy back like cats from a wet floor. My lieutenant keeps outside the line and hisses without sound. Rinya, small ember in my ribs, trembles like a sparrow noticing a storm. Hold perimeter, I say, and the lieutenant settles, head tilted, eyes slitted. It hates not charging. It obeys anyway. The zero field crawls toward a school. The school is in session. My heart stutters and then puts its boots on. I sprint. Ochako. Buses. I see them, she says, voice clipped. I can't lift in the circle. Then lift outside it, I say, already drawing a wild curve of wind along the street to herd kids and teachers toward the gap Shoto opens across an alley. Momo. Make rails. Bright. On it. She slaps bands on lamp posts and suddenly every pole grows a glowing handrail kids can grab while running. Someone laughs because the handrail feels like a hot chocolate mug. Momo, you menace. Push team, I say, we're turning the field. Bakugo flares. How do you turn a circle? Make it regret being round. We hit the edge together. I pull pressure sideways with an ugly weave that feels like flossing God's teeth. Bakugo throws 3 tight pops in a line that's not a line until he makes it one. The zero field ripples, hates our physics, then relents an inch. It curves. Not much. Enough. The halo does not like being corrected. It tightens. The crown whines. Ion's voice drops the pretense of human tone. Balance, it says. Every exception draws interest. Charge me later, I say, already panting a little. Noted, the voice says, and my rap heats like a brand under a stove. We're not stopping. We run lanes. We throw ramps. We move people. A little kid with a beetle backpack looks at me like I'm on a poster and then trips and skins a knee and cries like his world ended. I throw a wind pocket under his feet. Oh, he pops back up like a trampoline did it and he forgets he cried because the air made him bounce. He waves at me. I wave back. People are so easy to fix except when they aren't. We clear the school yard. We do it right. We're okay. Then the halo opens its mouth. A seam in the ring unlatches. Seraphim drop. Not angels. Not pretty. Long white frames that wear armor like someone described a bull to a blind sculptor. Blades where hands should be, faces smooth except for a vertical slit that rotates like a camera aperture. They hit rooftops and anchor. They sing in numbers that feel like receipts. Bakugo, I say, mine, he says, delighted, and launches onto the nearest roof with a half laugh, half growl. He hates gods with a joy that looks a lot like faith in people. Shoto throws glow. SSY ice across a rooftop line so the seraph's footing is never what it expects. Ochako makes whole groups weightless for just a blink so they can step past falling glass without spraining an ankle. Mo's grid lights feed into my palms, every rooftop band a little yes. I braid those yeses into a city-sized weave that picks up what the net tries to drop. The first seraph brings its blade down an F.I.N.D.S. nothing because Ochako stole weight from the rooftop at the last second and handed it back when the blade passed. It re-anchors and gets a face full of Bakugo, who doesn't blast hard, he blasts right. A focused pop that slides under the armor's lip and rattles its spine. The seraph goes to a knee. Bakugo tags that knee 3 times like a drummer who owes the song something. It scrapes him with a backhand he should have ducked. He grins blood and spits and keeps moving. Left flank, Shoto calls, and I twist a wind line to hook those blades just enough that they miss crowds and hit my stone instead. The halo counters by changing the pitch under my feet. I answer with a wider weave. The city hums with me. People who don't know magic from math still move like they felt the chord. 10 seconds of top up, Momo says. Then I'm empty. Give it to me, I say. Rooftops flare blue. The bands she planted catch the ambient weight of the city, the stomp of 1,000 feet, the hum of 100 air conditioners. The stupid heat of a billboard light, and pour it down my arms. I swallow 10 seconds of Mushoku and nearly choke. It's too much and not enough. I scream a wind arc that flips TW. Seraphs off a roof and into a zero field where they slow, confused, signals stuttering. Ion doesn't like losing board pieces. The halo tightens, the crown brightens, and the net drops into a deep R silence like someone pressed it into the cracks of reality. The city goes half dead around the ring. My weave stutters and tries to forget itself. Hold, I bark, at my own hands, at the grid, at T. He part of me that wants to sit down and listen to the quiet. The lieutenant hisses. My smaller shadows prowl the edges, pulling people out of falling stairwells. Rinya, little ember, flares and then flares again. I feel her attention tilt toward a sound none of us can pretend we didn't hear. Screaming. Not panicked, not hurt. Children screaming for fun. A daycare on the second floor of a strip mall has a ball pit. The ball pit is the exact wrong place in the world under a zero field and a seraph anchor because ball pits are not load-bearing in an existential sense. The ceiling above the ball pit groans. On me, I say. And sprint. The seraph across the street hears my shoes and turns its face slit. It glides a blade sideways, lazy, like it knows it can swat me mid-lane. I cut under it, with the ugliest wind I've ever woven and hit the daycare door's shoulder first. The room smells like finger paint and apple juice and the kind of cleaner that burns your nose. 20 kids. 4 caretakers. A ceiling crack that doesn't like math. Ochako skids in a second later, palms already up. I can't lift the room, she says. Field's too deep. Lift the people, I say. Shoto, I'm at your 10, he says. Voice already colder because his temperature dropped the second he hit the zero line. He slaps ice along the load-bearing beams and slows the sag to a sulk. The floor jumps. Not big. Enough to tell me we're on a timer that doesn't love us. Rinya, I say, because there's no one else who can be what I need in that exact second. The ember warms like a hand closes around mine. Shish. E lifts out of my shadow, but not like the others, not like a blade. She's a shield, made of the wrong thing for shields, a soft hinge of night that hardens when weight remembers it. She flickers, small and bright and brave. Hold the roof, I say. She doesn't bow. She shoots up and spreads across the ceiling like a shadow deciding it will not move even if the sun begged. The crack pushes. Rinya pushes back. The room stops pretending to be a throat. Everyone, Ochako says to the kids, voice bright and almost normal, we're going to play a floating game. Hands up like rockets. One at a time, okay. Big breaths. Look at me, not the floor. A little girl with a glitter hair clip stares at Rinya and whispers, pretty. She holds up her hands. Ochako lifts her like she weighs a promise and flies her to the door. The girl giggles and then cries and then laughs again because kids are honest. 2 caretakers heard the rest. Shoto splits his attention between ice and fallen glass and makes Aya. CHPs choose to be smooth instead of sharp. Momo's voice is in my ear, calm while her feet are probably bleeding from running. I have 3 more bands. I can turn this room into a bubble for 10 seconds. Save them for the stairwell. I say. This roof has a new spine. Rinya's light flickers again. Not dimmer. Hotter. That's not good. The zero field bites her edges because she's powered by the same math it hates. She doesn't complain. She holds. Ion notices. The halo's slab of voice drops right into my skull. Unauthorized shelter detected. Debit will be enforced. Take a number, I whisper. The last kid in line trips on his untied shoelace and faceplants, starts to bawl with his whole soul. I pick him up and he wraps arms around my neck like a tree frog and my back hates me and I do not care. Ochako floats him away. Shoto braces a beam with his shoulder, stupid and necessary. The ceiling sighs like an old man. Rinya, I say quiet, we're clear. She doesn't collapse when I say it. She waits until the last little shoe leaves the doorway. Then she falls. Not down. Into me. Into my shadow. Into a place under my ribs where anchors live. She's too hot. She's burning where she shouldn't. Don't. I say without breath, and feel dumb the second it leaves my mouth. She did what I asked. She did the right next thing. She held a ceiling for strangers in a ball pit. Of course she burned. I scoop enough weave to coat the beams and buy us 30 seconds and drag my feet back into the street. Momo slaps her last 3 bands on the stairwell and creates the 10 sec. OND bubble that saves 6 adults from being their worst day headline. Bakugo sprints past, a movie fight in a narrow alley, and shoulder checks a falling beam with a pop that turns the worst of it into smoke. Bus is clear, Ochako says. Voice cracking for the first time today. She clears her throat, embarrassed at her own humanity, and tries again. Bus is clear. On to block 3. Copy, I say, but it comes out. Because Rinya surges in my chest and goes out. It's not a death like the brood matriarch. It's not a soft unplugging. It's a burn through. She takes what she is, folds it inward, and leaves behind a little bowl the exact shape of her absence. I stop on a roof because my legs won't go forward for 2 breaths. Momo hits the edge beside me and reads my face without asking for a translation. She sets her hand on my back. I pretend her palm is keeping me from tilting into the street. Later, she says. Say it later. Move now. I move. We push the ring back street by street. We crack serif joints. We break net seams into little sags. We feed people out of shadow like a bad dream you can step through if someone who loves you is holding the door. The city remembers how to be a city. It helps us. The Eden crown overheats. Its prongs glow like stovetops. The choir sing themselves hoarse and don't know it because a god is using their throats. The captain kneels in his own radio cables. Fingers white on the rim of the machine. Shut it down, I tell him as I drop to the truck bed and slam my palm against one of the crown's ribs to keep it from tearing itself out of the mounts. We can't, he says. If we stop pushing, the halo will drop. If you keep pushing, we all do. He looks at me and finally, sees what his god isn't saying. Options, he asks, and means it. We starve it, I say. We stop being interesting. Be boring, he asks, half laugh, dazed. Be human, I say. No miracles, just stubborn. Momo drops into the truck and press S3 talismans into my palm like she knew the shape of this moment an hour ago. One-time kill switches, she says. Not on the crown, on our grid. If we pull R, yes, the halo loses its feedback. You're going to black out my ropes, I say. You can't carry the city forever, she says, expression taut. Drop the weave. Make it come to us on foot. I don't like giving up a toy I just proved I can use. That's ego. I drop it. The rooftop lines go dark. The bands quit humming. The city stops leaning toward me and leans into itself. People keep moving because we already taught them how. Shoto's baffles hold without my thread because he set them for physics, not prayer. Ochako keeps evac alive because gravity respects her even without her quirk inside the worst of the field. She runs. And yells and points and people listen because her voice is brave enough to call strangers by the right names. Bakugo adapts because that's his religion. He uses only enough blast to change a step. Nothing fancy. Just choices done right at speed. The halo blinks. It was eating R extra. Without the feast, it gulps air and chokes. Ion comes down the line, colder now. Accounting mismatch. Credit source removed. Yeah, I say. Throat dry. We cancelled our card. For a beat, the ring sags. The zero field thins. Quirks flicker back like a generator trying to start. Momo rips a cable with her teeth and throws a breaker that shifts the crown's hum into a cough. The captain looks like a man praying his god stops listening long enough to save a neighborhood. Midoriya, Ion says, now not using mouths at all, just wire. Your debt is red. I know, I say. Bill me. You cannot pay, it says, and it's almost gentle. That is the point. Then your point is bad, I say, and throw myself into the last seam I know how to make, chain fragments. Boss pieces always slough off in big fights. The serifs drop shards that keep trying to be tools. The net sheds flakes of light that want to be rules. I thread them, not to hoard power, but to make them cancel each other. I run a horrible calculus in my hands. White shard versus blue flake versus ugly little piece of something that inks it's a ledger line, and grit them together until the sum is nothing useful. It burns like scrubbing a floor with your skin. It works. The ring wavers and then, quietly, almost shy, stops. Not with a scream. With a decision. The halo unwinds into 100 thin lines that float, then sink, then evaporate like sweat in sun. The Eden crown creaks and goes cold. The choir stops singing in the same instant and all of them sway. Silence doesn't fall. The city talks. Sirens keep being sirens. People call each other by name. I lean on my knees on the truck bed and pretend I'm not checking my ribs because my ribs are fine. What hurts is a part of me with a small bowl in it where Rinya lived. The thin letters I hate scribble one last neat memo. Ledger status. Read. Escalation scheduled. Final audit. Imminent. Noted. I say. Dry. Get in line. The Eden captain sits down on the flatbed like he forgot how to be at attention. He looks at his hands. Children didn't drown, he says, this time like he's allowed to feel it. Good math, Ochako says, appearing with a grin that is too bright for someone whose voice broke 10 minutes ago. Her eyes are red. She doesn't hide it. She gives me a thumbs up because she knows if she touches me, I'll break on accident. Corridors clear. People fed. Buses pissed off but working. You good? I ask, because I heard that crack and I can't not. I hate halos, she says. A small laugh wrapped around a small truth. They make people look up when they should look at each other. Me too, I say, and that's the whole conversation we can afford right now. Momo climbs up beside me and doesn't say, I'm sorry, because she knows that would be cruel to both of us. She presses her shoulder to mine. That's enough. Bakugo drops onto the truck bed, blood down his chin, already drying. Grin thin and sharp and alive. Next time, he says, we skip the crown and go straight to punching the ring. Not how circles work, Shoto says, stepping up a bottle of water he probably stole from a camera crew. He hands it to me without looking sentimental about it. But sure, Hayami is there when the first camera trucks swing around, standing at T. He edge of the cordon with a posture that reads as sympathy from a distance and knife from close. He doesn't call me. He doesn't need to. His eyes on the crown say, you made me a liar in 3 languages. His eyes on the city say, thanks for that. I guess. Reporters pour. Ochako runs interference with a smile that could cut. Momo hands a packet to a mic. Astro report, filed. Evac routes, baffle placements, casualty stats low. Eden involvement neutral, ion interference unstated, obvious. She doesn't accuse. She just shows. People see what they see. I step off the truck and the street shifts under the skin of the day. That post-incident wobble where you can tell if a place learned something or just survived. We learned. We're tired. The choir captain stops me with 2 fingers on my sleeve. We weren't built to be cruel. He says, raw, as if he's arguing his own memories. Then don't be, I say. We're tools. So are we, I say. Choose the hands you let hold you. He doesn't know how to unpack that. He nods once anyway, then looks up at the place where the ring was and flinches like he got cold. Your account, he says. I know, I say. Night leans on the city without asking for permission. We stand on a rooftop because it's the first high, quiet place we see that doesn't smell like fear. The wind is tired. People below are making dinner and phoning Rolata. Vase and laughing at a bad meme because that's how grief checks itself. Shoto is texting his sister a picture of a dog wearing boots. Bakugo is angrily cleaning a tiny cut on his knuckle like the cut insulted his day. Momo is drawing a schematic for a better rooftop band that won't overheat. Ochako is leaning on the low wall, chin on her wrist, watching the ghost of the ring fade out of the sky. She says it again, softer. Now that no one needs her voice to be strong, I hate halos. Me too, I say, standing next to her. They pretend to be guidance. They're just pressure, she says. Yep, she bumps her shoulder into mine. You okay? No, I say, and it feels good to spend that word here. But I can be. We'll make room, she says, like she's talking about the city and also my ribs. For the ones we lose. For the ones we keep. Momo's pen stops for a second. She hears it. She doesn't say anything about it. She folds the schematic and slides it into her jacket. Tomorrow, she says, we audit them. Bakugo snorts. Already did. Punch audit. Shoto actually laughs that tiny almost laugh he does. We should sleep. Brief first, I say. Always the guild mom, Bakugo mutters. Always the rival who can't read a bedtime, I shoot back. He grins. Keep up. With you. Always. We turn toward the stairwell. My rap pulses once, and I feel a warmth where the little bowl under my ribs sits empty. Not filled. Not gone. Just remembered. A kid somewhere shouts in a new apartment. Someone burns dinner. A siren bleeds away toward a different part of town that needs it. The sky goes from bruised gold to honest dark. On the way down, the brand etches its last neat promise in my view. Final audit scheduled. Cool, I say under my breath. We'll bring receipts. And we keep walking. Chapter 5 end. Chapter 6. The trial that was a trap. The courthouse smells like lemon cleaner and old arguments. Reporters stack too deep behind stanchions. A bailiff waves a wand over my vest like it's a magic trick that ends in handcuffs. My rap itches under the cuff, polite, like a debt collector who brings pastries. Momo bumps my shoulder with a hard case that looks like office supplies. Remember the order, she murmurs. We say what we did. We show what it saved. We don't feed their fiction. Got it, I say. No sermons. Please, Bakugo mutters, adjusting a tie. He refuses to admit he let Ochako choose. If this ends without something exploding, I will explode. Explode the right thing, Ochako says. She's in clean lines and soft eyes, the kind of confident that makes people breathe better. And only if he says. He won't say, Bakugo scoffs. I might, I say. He grins, feral and fond. At a nerd. The main chamber is a fishbowl. Cameras in the press pit. A skylight that tries to be holy. Hayami sits at counsel table with 2 lawyers and a stack of paper that could drown a small town. He watches us come in like he arranged the chairs himself. Charges ping across a display. Unauthorized shadow conversions. Harboring non-human entities. Unlicensed enchantment networks. Reckless public endangerment. The phrasing tries to bite. It nibbles. He judges old enough to be unimpressed by anyone born after color TV. Astra Guild, she says, that tired voice people get when they've read too many statutes and not enough poems. You've waived counsel present. We have counsel, Momo says, tipping her head toward a row behind us. 3 lawyers we hired yesterday wave from their laptops with the energy of people trying not to be impressed by their clients. Momo sets her case on our table and pops the latches. Inside, binders, yes, but also juror badges nestled in foam like chocolates. Her thumb grazes a stamped rune on the back of one, casual. The metal hums in my bones. Hayami clocks it. Of course he does. He smiles like a parent catching a kid with glitter. Yaoyorozu, he says, voice honey. Love what you've done with process. Quote, process is beautiful when it isn't a knife, she says. He looks at me. Midoriya, you look well. Your city didn't drown, I say. He steeples his fingers. Let's keep it that way. The judge bangs once. Opening statements. Hayami's first. His lawyer stands and speaks like a soothing ad for a dangerous product. No one disputes Astra's intentions, she says. But we do question outcomes. Dependent operators cannot make metaphysical decisions in municipal space. The commission exists for a reason. The Eden Protocol exists for a reason. We have a duty to dull the edges of miracles. She said. Miracles, in a courthouse. Bakugo whispers. That legal. Shish, Ochako whispers back, not shushing him so much as smoothing the word so it doesn't cut. Our turn. I don't like talking first. I do it anyway. We saved people. I say simply. Every time. Momo pushes a tablet button. The wall display floods with receipts, timestamped feeds, body cam clips, public logs. Ochako reads 3 names out loud. Shoto lists baffle placements in that careful voice he uses when he knows math will win if people let it. Bakugo adds. We don't break more than we fix, which is his love letter to nuance. Hayami lets us finish. He loves a good rope. Then he stands and pulls it. The state recognizes Astra's rescues, he says, and my stomach drops because that's how he phrases the knife. We so recognize an existential debt accruing around Mr. Midoriya. He lifts a sheet with a gold seal, a design I've only seen in dreams that felt like audits. By the authority of the Eden Protocol, under the writ of equilibrium. My rap goes hot. The room leans. The seal isn't municipal, it's ions. We move to terminate Astra's license, detain Midoriya Izuku as a variance vector, and transfer a LL anomalous assets into stabilized custody. The judge blinks like someone swapped her script. Counselor, you can't introduce that from nowhere. Not nowhere, Hayami says, and the skylight turns the kind of white that counts. A thin harmonic shivers the glass. The Eden choir at the back row, hidden until you looked at them, stand in unison. 4 attendants in white lift sleek cylinders like they're presenting candelabras. The cylinders unfold into lances with halos so clean it hurts. Bailiff. The judge barks. He reaches for his sidearm and the lances hum. His hand curls open, soft, like sleep. Momo's hand finds mine under the table. Reverse plan, she breathes. Reverse plan, I say. We don't jump up. We stand just slightly too slow for panic to use us. Momo tips the box toward the clerk and the clerk, trained to take things from pretty people in suits, takes the wrong thing. A row of juror badges. Her palm brushes a rune on each. The badges hum like bees that love due process. Ochako drifts to the aisle between benches with a smile that says everything is normal, please enjoy this boring day. She skims a glove against the rail and tilts gravity, not for people, for sound. The next screams bend into the carpet instead of the ceiling. Shoto breathes out frost, but not at the choir. He lays a thin ice hinge under the skylight's frame because the room is preparing to fold and he is preparing not to let it. Bakugo cracks his knuckles. You say, go, I make doors. Don't blow people, I say. I know, he says, annoyed I'd even say it. Hayami watches like a conductor enjoying a rehearsal gone off book. You're doing the thing where you make me the villain by refusing to be safe. Safety's not your issue, I say. Control is. Control is just safety with a budget, he says. The lances anchor. The air ticks over. Wood grain turns flow. Pillars breathe. The chamber buckles into a geometry that should not have a fire exit plan. The courthouse folds into a pocket gate. Reporters, jurors, a field trip of 9th graders doing civics day, leverage. The judge's gavel slides off the bench and thunks to the floor like the last normal thing leaving the room. Public safety. The Eden captain announces, voice steady and wrecked at the edges. He's the one who helped us at the hospital. He hates this, then does it anyway. Please remain calm while we stabilize. The lances, halos flare. The walls bow. Ion moves like math through wood. Momo stamps her heel twice. Under the benches, the juror badges flash. Runes she hid under the paint wake up like good listeners. Safe anchors bloom. Tiny tethers that glue benches to the floor and people to benches. The 9th graders stop tilting. Their teacher sobbing laughs. The clerk stares at her handful of badges like she just performed sorcery by filing. Ochako slides through the aisle and flicks her wrist. Panic goes sideways. People who would have sprinted to the doors stumble into seats instead. Their fear burns off like steam. Shoto's hinge holds. The skylight tries to become a mouth and instead becomes a lid with attitude. Frost veins the frame. Wood complains. Glass does math and loses. Openings, I say. Bakugo obliges. He doesn't detonate walls. He burps the pressure in the corners where the room wants to fold hardest, turning what would have been a suck into a sigh. He makes sound ton. Else. Pockets where the pressure equalizes, and the building stops acting like a hungry throat and starts acting like a building with a bad attitude. Hayami steps off the line of the law and onto the lee. Nay of whatever this is without wrinkling his suit. Astra, he says mildly, surrender your assets and I will let the benches keep their children. The brand under my wrap burns clean. The letters write themselves without shame. Final audit. Now, the lances hum to a pitch only my teeth hear. Ion leans through language. Deader, it says, not to me, to the room. The word makes the chandeliers blink. Balance takes from everyone. Hayami says, not quite to Ion, not quite to me. The ugly truth is that chaos eats the poor first. You want heroism. I want boring. Boring keeps children alive. Boring killed people in that warehouse, I say. Boring wrote down the wrong gate level and called it a budget saving. He doesn't flinch. He's past shame. He's in logic. I can be the villain in Y. R book if you keep the epilogue intact. He lifts the writ. The seal glows. The lances flex. The pocket twists, ready to bag me in any miracles near me. Now, Momo whispers. Now, I say. She palms a juror badge. Not to a juror. To Hayami. It sticks to the lacquer on the writ for one heartbeat. Enough. A tiny rune flares. The public address system in the building wakes like a timid animal and decides to be brave. Momo's network jumps from badge to bailiff's radio to the courthouse Wi-Fi to the city's open feeds. Every camera in the room gets replaced by one file, the writ. It bloom splashes onto the courtroom screen. The hallway monitors, the sidewalk jumbotrons. People outside gasp because no one ever gets to see the trick behind authority. The writ's text looks clean until Momo zooms. Little mismatches light up like hot metal through paper. Clauses written in characters that aren't Japanese or English, not alien, just numbers pretending to be law. Ion's language disguised as statute. A line labeled increment null sits where the court code should be. There is no increment null in any municipal book. Public safety writs can't be signed by gods, Momo says, voice steady in a room spinning on its pride. They can be influenced by agencies. But no non-civil actor can bind citizens. This is a proxy contract. Eden is acting as a pen for something that doesn't vote. Hayami doesn't blink. We are allowed to use any tool to prevent catastrophe. Not by forging a law, she says, as kind as a blade. That's not tool use. That's pretending. Inevitable. Equals. Legal. The Den captain looks at the writ like he's seeing it for the first time with his own eyes. He rips his gaze to the lances. His lips move. A prayer that doesn't know which way to face. The room stalls. Ion is still coming. But the narrative stumbles. Bakugo, I say, already got you, he says, and taps 3 micro-pops along the baseboards. The sound tunnels he built flip, shunting pressure away. From the juror boxes and into the empty judge's alcove. The pocket's throat loses its bite. People stop reaching for someone else's hand and find their own. Ochako, I say. Corridor tilt in 3, 2, 1, she sings. And the building's hallways lean toward the exits without panic. Reporters slide like toddlers on a waxed floor and start laughing mid-fall because terror doesn't know how to metabolize slapstick. Shoto, I say. He plants both hands on the floor and freezes the hinge at the room's mathematical center. Where the fold would have pinched the benches into inventory, Ice says no. He holds a pressure that would crack ribs. He doesn't wobble. The lances flare. Ion tightens. Balance, it says, louder, now. I step over the bar and onto the stone lip of the well, into the pee. Art of the room that wants to be a ritual. My hands are empty. My shadow rises, thin and alert, guard not spear. I don't pull it forward. I put me forward. Ion, I say, voice steady because Momo's hand is a warm line at my back even when she's 5 feet away. You keep saying deader like a curse. Here's a new word. Consent. I tilt my chin at the benches where 9th graders grip safe anchors with sticky hands. Nobody in this room signed a contract with you. The writ flares. Not the paper. The math behind it. The lances answer. Pressure slams. A syllable of gravity, and then shudders because it meets anchors. Little runes. Little yeses. Lots of small law. Hayami lowers the writ a fraction. His jaw locks. If the choice is between freedom and survival, he says, I will bore this city to life. I step into his space. He doesn't step back. If you think the only way to live is boring, you've never been loved on a rooftop after a fight. It comes out more raw than I planned. Fine. Truth is messy. He almost winces. Behind us, a beam breaks from a bad angle. It doesn't hit a juror. It hits Hayami square in the back because the room doesn't respect anyone. He stumbles. The writ slips. One knee hits tile. The lances lock on my heat. If I dodge, they'll punch holes where kids sit. I don't dodge. I take them. I pull wind tight as a shirt and stone hard as a promise and let the lances hit the net I weave at skin. The world goes white and noise goes fake. The rune band on my wrist shrieks. My shoulder folds like bad origami. I stay up. My feet stay. Hayami gapes Becca. He expected a speech about mercy and got teeth. I haul him by the lapel behind me and he coughs once, twice, air in shock and bewilderment. He's not grateful. He's alive. Law. I rasp, because my throat feels like an argument. Over vengeance. He swallows. For the first time, his eyes aren't a policy. They're just demands. You could have let the math eat me. Math doesn't get to eat people, I say. Behind us, Momo slaps a palm on the bench and pushes a cascade of filings to the screen. Astra's logs, and the Commission's own gate rating edits, timestamps next to budget compliance. It's clean. It's receipts. Ochako toggles the building's PA and speaks like sunshine. Walk, not run. Left hand on the wall. You're okay. She makes 200 people do a simple thing in the right way. Shoto grinds his teeth and holds. Bakugo flares micro pops in a pattern so exact you could notate it. The Eden captain drops his spear's tip 1 inch and the halo above it dims a fraction that looks like a breath taken by choice. Ion pushes again, colder, the writ bright as frost. My rap carves neat lines in my peripheral. Escalation. Not here, I say through my teeth. Not now. The lances flicker. The room's pressure falls like it changed its mind. The judge, white-knuckled to her bench, finds her gavel, picks it up, bangs once on a piece of wood that isn't sure it's a table. Somehow, it echoes. She points the gavel at the screen floating above us. The writ blown up, the increment null clause plain as day. Clerk, she says hoarsely. Enter into record. Exhibit a non-statutory instrument. The sound of that simple sentence changes the shape of the pocket. Law remembers itself. The fold unfolds. Not because a god allows it. Because a room decided to be a room again. The lances retract like they're embarrassed. The skylight's glass goes back to glass. The benches settle. People shake and realize they were brave. Hayami leans on the rail with both palms. He doesn't speak. The Eden captain signals a retreat none of us will call a retreat. The choir file out, faces blank, and step into sunlight that doesn't care. Reporters rediscover their lungs. Mics bloom. Questions start like hail. Momo reaches across all that noise, grabs my vest, and kisses me. Not long. Not a movie. Quick, decisive, before the cameras can turn love into a panel show. Her forehead rests against mine for one beat. She drops back to her heels, eyes clear, voice already switching into press mode. Astra will be submitting full logs, she says to the nearest camera. Please fact-check us. Ann. D. Please stop calling divine math inevitable. It's not law. Ochako laughs into a reporter's mic as if the mic told a joke. Also, could someone bring the 9th graders pizza? They aced civics. Bah. Kugo pretends to gag at the kiss and then shoulders me once in a way that says don't blow this in good hit and I'm proud in a dialect we don't admit we speak. Shoto nudges the fallen gavel with his toe, thoughtful. I like this sound, he says. Hayami straightens, breath back, suit dusty. He doesn't thank me. Of course he doesn't. He smooths his tie, looks at the writ on the screen, then at the kids, then at the cameras. Then at the captain who won't meet his eyes. His smile is smaller than I've ever seen it. Court reconvenes in 2 hours, the judge says, the kind of tired that laughs later. Without God paperwork, we file out. On the steps, the city hits like open air after a long underwater. The brand under my wrap pulses like a calendar reminder. Final audit scheduled. Yeah, I tell it, not softly. See you. Momo's fingers find mine. Quick squeeze, release before it becomes theater. Ochako leans on my arm for exactly 1 second like she's confirming I'm still attached to gravity. Bakugo stretches his neck like he's looking for the next fight. Shoto tilts his head into wind that isn't there and closes his eyes like he's putting something away where it won't break. We made law beat a writ. We didn't win. Not like that, but the kids waved as they left. Good math. Chapter 6 end. Chapter 7. The day the ledger broke. The alert hits like a nail through glass. Final audit. Now, streetlights blink in sync. Every billboard swaps to white with a thin black circle in the middle like the city got branded. People stop mid-stride. The air goes careful. Momo doesn't look up from the table. We don't wait, she says. We split. Say it. Bakugo grins, already tightening his gloves. Eden crown first, I say. Bakugo. Strike team. Break the amplifier, not the block. Shoto. Ochako. Evac corridors. You own the ground. Momo. Your sky. Turn roofs into catchers. Feed me when I call. And you? Ochako asks. I flex my wrapped wrist. The letters don't bother with foreplay. Deader. I make the bill bounce. I say. We roll. Sirens don't even try to outrun the hum that slides down from the clouds. Over downtown, the circle draws itself again, thinner than last time, meaner. The Eden crown sits already spun up on the municipal plaza, ring within ring, choir kneeling around it like it's a wedding cake they plan to swallow. The Eden captain sees me across the barricade. He doesn't lift his lance. He lifts 2 fingers in a weary hello. Midoriya, don't join us, I say, jogging past. It's easier. We don't do easy, he says. We do instructions. Bakugo lands on the crown's flatbed like a problem set finally worth the pencil. On your left, he tells his own crew. No fireworks. Just root canal. He doesn't wait for permission. 3 soft pops in a triangle. The crown shudders without exploding. He grins. Hello, weak weld. Shoto's voice clicks in my ear. Eastern corridor built. Gravity's mean but cooperative. Ochako. Western corridor singing. People are listening. They like lines that glow. Give them more lines, I say. Momo has already started. She's moving roof to roof with a coil of cable over one shoulder, dropping bright copper hoops on laundry poles. Clipping foil flags to antennae, chalking circles on tar and tile. She taps her earpiece between leaps. Catchers up in a 5-block radius. If they touch the hoops, I can hear them. Hear who? Everyone willing. Keep going, I say. Make a map out of yes. The halo in the clouds opens like a lens. Ion doesn't descend as a man or a voice this time. It descends as accounting. Columns and crosshatches of light braided into a human outline only long enough to be understood. The choir tremble like a choir that practiced scales and got thunder instead. It speaks without sound. The court day voice. Balance. The street responds like a church full of people who didn't come to pray. Children scream because screaming is a game. Someone drops a coffee and laughs because they're scared. 2 dogs start to bark at the same squirrel as if the squirrel is the true emergency. Humanity refuses to be an equation. The letters carve my view. Debit recognized. Red. Bakugo. I say. Busy. He sings. Happy. Don't push. I'm in the bolts. He is. He's under the crown with his shoulder jammed into a crossbeam, popping microbursts exactly where the mount wants to crack. The ring's hum goes ugly. The choir captain pales. If you sever that bolt, the feedback. Yeah, Bakugo says. The city sneezes. We brought tissues. Shoto throws a slick of ice under a stampede to turn it into a slide. People shriek and then giggle because sliding engages the same part of the brain that staves off panic. Ochako floats 4 wheelchairs in one breath, jaw tight, soft eyes steady. You're doing great, she tells a stranger. The stranger relaxes because she means it like oxygen. Momo hooks a cable to a rooftop water tank and slaps a talisman on the metal. The tank hums like a chest tapped by a fork. Catchers live across 10 blocks, she says. On your call I can make them drink a heartbeat and pour it down. Hold, I say. Ion tilts. The outline of its limbs redraws in cleaner lines. The body of it an audit made visible. The ring gives a low note that turns teeth to chalk. Correction prepared. The crown spits a net. Quirks flatten. Mana drags like you're running in a pool. Shadows recoil. My lieutenant hunches at my heels, teeth bared, not to leap, to guard. That's new. Rinya's little bowl under my ribs aches like a bruise. The net wants to deny the day. I walk into it. It hits like a freezer door. I don't push back with more force. I push back with shape. Spellblade tight on skin, stone braced at joints, reflexes rolled thin to fit through the mesh. The world narrows. The outline in the sky leans down. A whisper only I hear. Deader. Settle. Make me an offer, I say, and job swap micro bursts like shuffling cards, spellblade. To enchanter to healer to slinger to scribe and back, each for a breath. It doesn't make me stronger. It makes me slippery. Ion tracks power like money. I keep handing it a different receipt. The ing lowers a column of white like a spear made from a tax return. It comes for my chest. I step left and take it on the buckler no one can see. The buckler whines. My elbow screams. I hold anyway. E Street goes quiet for a heartbeat in the kind of admiration that isn't a cheer. Now, Momo asks. Close, I say, panting. Bakugo's grunt hits the channel like a fist. Bolt 2, he snarls, is a jerk. Shoto, give me a lever. Shoto slams a wedge of ice under the mount, calm. Bakugo pops once, twice, thrice along a seam you wouldn't notice if you weren't mean to machines. The bolt cries. The crown lists. Choir stumble. The halo recalculates, disgusted. Ion pins me with the math. Settle. No, I say. New terms. I hop to a news van and grab the mic off the boom the way you steal a hat from a friend. Ochako catches the camera's eye and nods once, telling it to follow me. She doesn't need words. She never does. I face the nearest roof where Momo's hoops glitter like cheap jewelry. Musudafu, I say, voice cutting because fear listens to clear. If you want me to pay this alone, I will. If you don't, then give me one heartbeat. Not money, not worship, just a yes that I'm allowed to carry this with you. No speech. That's all. Momo is already there. She flips 3 switches on a box that didn't exist 10 minutes ago. Every hoop lights a tiny circle. Every circle glows when a hand touches it. A kid on a balcony slaps both palms on a hoop, giggling because it tingles. A line cook sticks a spatula under one and laughs when it hums like a tuning fork. A grandmother presses her palm to a copper ring and whispers something none of us needs to hear. Hoops light by the dozen, then the 100. It's not dramatic. It's steady. Consent, Momo says in my ear, entirely technician and a little reverent. We're catching it. Ion tries to tax it and can't find a line item. Consent isn't credit. Consent is permission. There's no price. I open both hands. I don't suck those heartbeats into myself. I bind them, one breath from each person who chose to give it, into a net under the city. My system fights. It was built to funnel up. I flip it sideways. The catchers hum. The grid warms. The consent net arrives as a flavor in the air you could mistake for spring. Now, I say, Momo throws every switch. Cables sing from rooftop to rooftop. Water tanks shiver. Door handles tingle like they're pleased to be touched. The city acknowledges itself. Bakugo laughs like a fox. There we go. He shoves the last bolt to the edge. Shoto. Now, Shoto leans. The bolt shears, not with an explosion, with a sigh. The crown sags and something inside it gives up a secret. It only works if we agree it does. We don't. It coughs and goes honest steel. The halo drops its clean outline and becomes ugly, messy numbers. Ion reaches for my ledger and finds the lock changed. Define value, it says, or thinks, or simply is. Try love, Ochako says into her own mic like she's telling a joke to a friend. And a woman holding a toddler on a stoop nods. Not quantifiable, Ion returns. Exactly, I say, and pull the consent net up just enough to meet the audit's edge. Not to smash it, to introduce it. Ledger lines collide with handprints. They don't cancel. They refuse a common language. Ion pushes harder. My rap burns. The letters get mean. Unpayable. Yep. I say, N.D. My voice shakes because every yes in those hoops is running through me and my bones were not made to be a switchboard. We're not paying. We're sharing. The outline in the sky bellies inward like something realized it can drown. It tries to zero again. The consent net bows and then holds. The choir captain drops his lance tipped to the ground. He is crying and furious and relieved. He looks small and human and real. Hayami is there. I don't know when he got there. No aids. No smile. Dust from yesterday still scuffed on his shoes. He watches the net rise, the crown die, the halo flinch. He doesn't speak. He rolls up his sleeves and starts directing a line of wheelchairs around a pothole like he invented the curb. He hears himself doing it and looks annoyed, then invested, then something worse, changed. Ion's voice dims, not in volume, in certainty. The ledger scrolls faster, symbols piling on symbols until the math eats itself. The increment null clause tears across the sky like paper. Balance, it says again. But it sounds like a word a person learned late. Balance doesn't mean subtraction, I say, and I mean it like oath. Balance can mean carrying. I feel it snap, not my body, the book. Some long, cold page in the world cracks and turns to confetti. The halo loses its circle, then its lines, then its appetite. It goes away without theatrics, like a bad idea you forgot on the bus. The crown dies. The choir sit down hard. The captain sags like his spine paid for a city and isn't mad about the bill. I drop to one knee because the net through my hands is too much. Momo arrives like she always does, right place, right second, and wraps both my wrists with new bands that smell like copper and rain. It hurts less. I breathe more. Ochako slides into the frame and says to the city, bright as a bell, thank you. That was perfect. People cheer not like a stadium, like a street that just remembered its neighbors. Bakugo jogs over, chest heaving. He flicks sweat, grabs my vest, bumps his head to mine like we're butting helmets. You rewrote the rules, he says, teeth bared, proud and rude. We rewrote who writes them, I say. Semantics, he snorts, affectionate. Shoto hands me a bottle because he is secretly the mom friend. Sip, he says. I sip. My hands stop shaking. The net bleeds off naturally, not like a drain, like a crowd leaving a concert. The hoops dim. People let go, blink, go back to their day. A woman ties her kid's shoe with the concentration of a pilot approaching a runway. A guy in a suit starts laughing and can't stop for a minute because he didn't die. A street vendor decides to give away 3 extra skewers for no reason he can articulate. Accounting fails. Community wins. The brand under my wrap pulses one more time and then stops pretending it's in charge. The letters shrink to a period. Debtor. No new line. I lean back on my hands and tilt my head up so the sky can see I'm not apologizing. In the soft that follows, song. Ethan moves where my shadow meets the light. Not spear. Not guard. Keeper. The space Rinya left warms like someone set tea on a porch railing. A shape unfurls. Small, bright, stubborn. She stands on tea. He crowns dead rim and looks down at her hands like she expected them to hurt and they don't. Hi, I say, voice stupid with relief. She tilts her head. She doesn't kneel. She leans into my shadow, like a shoulder into a friend, and then turns to face the city with me. Welcome back, Momo says, eyes shiny in a strictly professional way. Rinya flickers once in answer and takes station, not as a blade. As a guardian. The lieutenant slides aside to make room without anyone telling him to. My shadows don't just follow orders anymore. They understand roles. Eden's captain walks up without his lance. His cheeks are wet. He looks at the dead crown, then at our hoops, then at his hands. Children didn't drown, he says, same words, different weight. Truth ages well, Ochako says. He nods. Quote, I thought obedience would keep the world small enough to manage. He swallows. I was wrong. Keep the good parts, I say. Throw out the rest. He laughs once. You make it sound easy. It's not, Momo says. It's maintenance. Hayami is suddenly there again, closer, sleeves shoved to elbows, tie askew. He hasn't spoken since he started ushering wheelchairs like a contrite metronome. He opens his mouth. He closes it. He watches Rinya lean, watches kids touch dead metal like it's a slide. He finally says, very quietly, boring can be kind. I forgot that. Boring can also hide knives, I say. We'll help you sand them down. Something like a smile but not quite passes across his face, humor aimed at himself, not us. He nods. Deal. No handshake. We're too tired. We go to work instead. Debris. Bandages. Water. The day turns itself back on like a store flipping its sign. After, when the last ambulance rolls and the plaza sounds like vendors arguing about rates, we climb a build. Ing that used to be important and sit on a lip that never was. The sunset doesn't try to be art. It just happens. Shoto texts his sister a photo of a dog in a stroller. Bakugo flicks a pebble at a billboard. It misses on purpose. Momo pulls a folded schematic from her jacket and then slides it back because plans can wait a night. Ochako presses her cheek to her wrist on the wall and exhales until it comes back smooth. You staying human? Bakugo asks me without looking. Yeah, I say. Could have played God just now. Gross, I say, and his grin is pure approval. Momo leans her head again. Saint my shoulder like she's testing how the day fits now. The city lights up slowly, block by block, like a teachable child remembering math. Below us, someone burns dinner and laughs. Somewhere else, someone sings badly and doesn't care. The hoops on rooftops hang dark, a little scuffed, very loved. Rooftop catchers stay, Ochako asks, eyes half closed. Yeah, Momo says. Emergency only. Consent only. No leashes. Good, Ochako says. I like us better when we're not auditioning for God. We sit in the wind that doesn't care who we are and let the quiet be work. Rinya stands at the parapet, small and sure. Guarding exactly nothing and exactly everything. I don't check my rap again. We'll file reports in the morning. We'll get yelled at and clapped for in the same hour. We'll argue budgets. We'll buy better bolts. We'll learn to sleep. For now, the city breathes like it belongs to itself. That's enough. Chapter 7 End.